Welcome to the 52nd episode of the Nerdom and Other Nonsense anime podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about spring 2018's 9th and 10th week of shows. As always, we include timestamps in the description of the YouTube video and the podcast feed if you only want to hear about one or two specific shows, since we spoil literally everything. My name is Kat, and I shall undergo training to be able to spot a reverse trap and never be fooled again. You fucking bitches. God damn it.
You're welcome.
With me today
that was all Leo.
are these assholes, Leo and Bcom.
Yeah, that was all me. I wrote that. Well, another reverse trap popped up this week, so I had to brought up past memories. So
honestly, reverse traps are popping up like everywhere now in these anime. I've been noticing. It's kind of crazy. It's ridiculous.
Yes.
And this week, I'm sorry to say that we have no new reviews. And
yeah,
when that fucking happens, it means we all have to go hungry and starve in the streets. And so you just think about that, viewers. Think about what you put us through this week.
And my cats go hungry too. It's awful.
Feel the shame deep down in your soul. And fucking get on and write us a review,
normally, guys. I don't know why you're not eating. I've been eating like every day.
Shut up, Bcom. You'll ruin the illusion.
Yeah, but seriously,
sorry.
Bcom might start writing reviews again. And for himself, and we don't want that.
Oh yeah, that would be terrible.
That would be bad.
All right. Talk about some boners.
Yes, let's do
get into it.
Let's get right on this gravy train. Okay. Golden Kamuy, episode 9. No, wait, is it actually Gleaming? Oh yeah, it is. The episode title is Gleaming.
I wrote Gleaming Boner because that's literally what it means.
It literally is a gleaming boner. It literally is.
It's literally about a gleaming boner. God damn this show.
So the episode starts out, Asirpa finds the body of that one dude that Hiname just killed. And just as Hiname in the other room is like, oh yeah, I think I forgot something, i.e. like the dead body I killed, Asirpa runs to warn Sugimoto like of the whole situation because she figures it out. But Sugimoto and Henmi are already gone. Henmi takes Sugimoto outside looking for somewhere where they won't be interrupted. And I'm just like, oh yeah, Boner Dude. I'm going to call Henmi Boner Dude from now on. And
I mean, it's easier.
Yeah. And he's like,
we know who you're talking about.
And he's just like,
but wait, do we know who she's talking about? Because there's so many boner dudes in this show at this point.
There fucking are. Oh, man. So basically, Henmi's wanting to get lucky. So suddenly the 7th Regiment shows up, and Sugimoto needs somewhere to hide from them. Boner Dude recommends the mansion where his boss lives, and they head over there. Meanwhile, Tsurumi is already at the mansion that they're going towards, and he's playing piano with that boss, the same boss. Suddenly, Tsurumi just gets right to the point, and he's like, hey, yo, dude, you gonna donate to start this weapons factory or what? And then the boss gets up, and he's just like, yeah, I fucking love weapons. Look at this illegal cannon Gatling thing I've got. Isn't it awesome?
Yeah, he's got a boner for weapons, I'd say.
I guess. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, downstairs, Boner Dude and Sugimoto get in the house. Boner Dude is super excited to finally have Sugimoto all to himself. Boner Dude tries to take Sugimoto up to the attic for some bouncy fun time action, but unfortunately, there are some fucking soldiers already up there who recognize Sugimoto. Boner Dude tries to distract them and smooth over the situation. And when that doesn't work, he just murders them. But he gets like oddly distracted by how hot a guy with a blade through his face really is. Another face injury, by the way. And
that's not the last.
And the dude. Okay. Also, like, is Hiname supposed to be the author secretly? It's all coming
Maybe.
out. Like
he just has all these fetishes.
Yeah. Anyway. So he's distracted by his sexy blade through the face dude. And so the guy shoots him in the gut while he's dying. The sound of the gunshot alerts the boss downstairs and Tsurumi. The merch boss, realizing it's Sugimoto, gets like all fucking excited and starts using his Gatling gun in his own house, which I would never fucking do, because you're just gonna ruin your entire house. I don't understand.
They're just paper walls. He can put new ones up.
Well, whatever. Sugimoto runs with Boner Dude out the fucking house, still unaware that he is with the murderer, dodging bullets with Boner Dude on his back. Because remember, Boner Dude has like a gunshot to the gut. And Sugimoto is screaming like, I am immortal! All badass style, like he always fucking does. And this glorious sight makes Boner Dude realize, like, he only ever wanted to be like his brother, who he admires, who he, like, reminds him of Sugimoto. And also, I think he may be in love with Sugimoto. There's like a weird scene where he kind of, like, confesses his love. I don't know. As Sugimoto and Boner Dude run up to Shiraishi on the beach, Shiraishi recognizes, like, who it is that is with Sugimoto and, like, yells out to warn him, like, you're with the serial killer. Sugimoto turns to confront Boner Dude, but Boner Dude already is about to stab Sugimoto because he's like, well, fuck, it's over now. We had something. It's done. A Sirpa on a nearby cliff shoots Boner Dude with an arrow, though, and this gives Sugimoto an opportunity to just stab Boner Dude like several times, which Boner Dude just absolutely adores. He's like,
I think he even says, like, when he gets stabbed in the heart, he's like, it's coming inside me.
You ruined. Okay, so he yells, I'll struggle my hardest, so let me gleam.
You had this.
And by gleam, he literally means let his crotch glow, which starts happening at this point. Boner Dude goes on a rant about how, like, Sugimoto is, like, so strong, and, like, the more he wants to live, the more he shines. And Sugimoto's just like, well, I don't fucking want to die. And then, so Sugimoto, like, hits the Boner Dude with the gun, knocks him down, but then he tries to shoot him, but he can't, because now his gun is jammed, because he smacked him with it. So instead, Sugimoto stabs him with the bayonet. And this is when Boner Dude screams very suggestively, it's coming inside me. At this point.
I don't think you said that with enough passion.
It's coming inside me, baby.
No, he's like, it's coming inside me.
Well, I guess we know what the title of this podcast is going to be.
Yes. All the while, there's this weird fucking surreal background music playing. I laughed so fucking hard, I almost choked. The voice is exactly like every cliche yaoi I've ever watched, except this is apparently a snuff film or something.
What happened to this show?
It's hilarious. It's amazing. Boner Dude says, Sugimoto-san, will you promise not to forget me? Sugimoto's all like, I'll remember you every time I look at the tattooed skin I rip off your body. This is like the hottest dirty talk Boner Dude has ever heard in his life. He might as well just...
in his head. It's all in his fucking head.
He just, like, comes in the sand at this point. Like, Sugimoto, I think, is kind of into it at this moment, too.
The guy...
It's kind of weird.
Like hallucinating this. He is hallucinating
I don't
this.
think he is. I think this is just some weird fucking shit going down. Then... randomly, a fucking orca whale comes out the water, fucking
what
steals
the fuck was this?
The half-dead Boner Dude away. Like, first of all, what a cock block. Like, so close. So close.
Cock block orca? That's his name?
I don't know. He kind of loved it.
I mean, he did.
Fuck.
So
you were supposed to free Willy. You were the chosen one.
So both the seventh people, like the people from the 7th division, and all of Sugimoto's friends are like, the orca will eat the tattoos, and like everyone freaks out, and they all get in the water to chase down this fucking orca. Meanwhile, the orca is just tossing this bitch around, and like Boner Dude is just absolutely ecstatic. He's like, this is more than I ever could have hoped for. A Sirpa spears the orca, and Sugimoto and the gang are pulled away from the 7th with the Boner Dude in tow by the dying orca, basically. Finally, you see the shot later of the dead orca and everyone else, like, on the beach, so they escaped. And like they're all looking at Sugimoto, who is in the boat with the boner dude who's dead, and he's got this knife. And Shiraishi is like, he's fucking scarier than anyone because he's about to skin boner dude. And he looks like kind of like turned on by it. I don't know. It's weird. And Sugimoto's like, I won't forget how you gleamed. And I was just like, no, Sugimoto, why?
Yeah. And all I commented was, well, that first half was something.
Which was, yeah, pretty much. Jesus.
It was bad. So in the meantime, the 7th have invaded the Ainu village and found Tanigaki and the grandma. First, they seem to think he deserted and killed the soldiers with him. But then, like, after a tense confrontation, they leave, and Tanigaki's kind of like, oh, I should go because I'm going to put you guys in danger. And he starts to go, although he's kind of upset about having to leave. And then he gets, like, shot, like, glancingly in the head. Another face wound. And it's those same. It's those same soldiers. Mm-hmm.
This is another show did a short massage scene also, and this was the first one. He's in there giving her like some like potement on the back, tapping on it and stuff.
Oh yeah, there was that little.
That's true.
There was that little thing.
Was loving that massage.
Well, she seems to like a lot of things. She pretty much smiles at whatever's going on around her. But yeah, she was enjoying that. So I don't know. So I guess these two soldiers are planning to betray Tsurumi, and they think that Tanigaki knows about it, and that's why they were trying to kill him. So then there's this like weird showdown where Tanigaki's like, well, I can't leave or they'll shoot me, but I can't stay here, they'll shoot me. And he finally makes a smoke screen and escapes. But he's wounded because he got shot in the head. And the two soldiers are like, well, we're going to go Tanigaki hunting. And Tanigaki's
That's not what's slowing him down. It's his leg wound.
No, I think...
shot in the head,
that's right.
Yeah, the shot in the head was just a graze. It's the leg wound
he
from
also
the
has
poison
a gun from that boner.
He was
hunter
already
dude.
injured from like before. Yeah, that's right. But anyway, so it's going to be a hunt next episode, basically. And that's how the episode ends. So
what a ridiculous fucking episode. I just don't even understand what this show is doing at this point. Like, Henmi Kazuo, like, what fucking character to throw into the middle of your show.
It was the best, though. It was the best episode yet. You have to admit.
I didn't like it. Like, it just feels so out of place.
I loved it so much.
Like,
I was like, yes, this is what I wanted all along. This ridiculousness.
Man, you're into some weird shit, Kat.
I'm just saying, the more ridiculous it is, the more hilarious it is. All right.
If it's supposed to be like that, if that's what a show is about, but this show isn't really like that. It just pops up randomly.
Yeah. No, it's like popped up like, well, the boner, there's like now a boner theme to this show. Like, this show has become about boners, like over the past like 4 episodes. It's crazy.
Kind of.
I don't know.
Oh, I got something for you in the next episode if you guys are ready.
All right. Yeah, tell me about episode 10. So,
episode 10, Fellow Traveler. I was just calling this guy Revenge Twin because that's what he is. So, Ogata and Revenge Twin continue to track Tanigaki, who they don't know has Boner Guy's one-shot gun. Tanigaki sets up a trap. He lures them to a fire that he set next to a deer that a bear had killed. Revenge Twin is sent in to see if it's Tanigaki's fire and gets attacked by the bad CGI bear.
Bad CGI bear is back.
It rips an ear off, and Ogata is forced to shoot the bear to get it off of him. So there's another face wound. Mm-hmm. So Ogata stands up and says, "What are you going to do without a gun?" And he ends up getting shot in the chest by Tanigaki because he doesn't know he had that weapon. And then Tanigaki, he just says, "Boner."
Oh, I know. I thought that this was a translation error. I was like, he did not literally say boner.
No, I think he did because it's an homage to the boner hunter guy whose gun saved his life. So he's like, what should I say to pay homage to that guy?
Well, but like, in the actual series, like, he never says boner, though. I don't understand where the fuck
Maybe they changed it for the anime.
He's so ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. It's almost like they heard our commentary and they're like, we're going to slip something extra special in here just for them.
I had one note also about when the 7th Regiment guys shot at the CGI bear. It's really quick, but like they shoot at this bear, right? And then like they have a CGI model and they don't want to like make a wound on it because they don't have the money, I guess. So like they just have like a flash of red and then it disappears and then there's no wound or like bullet hole in this bear. It just looks so bad. Oh man.
Yeah, but when he goes boner, I immediately heard Bcom in my head go, why?
It was pretty fucking ridiculous. I was convinced. I was like, this has to be a translation error. There's no way he fucking said boner.
Okay, so anyways, as Tanigaki is going to look at Ogata and make sure he's dead, another soldier shows up from the 7th Division and explains the rest of the soldiers are nearby and they were tracking Ogata and hoping he would flesh out the rest of the rebels. But turns out apparently Ogata's binoculars basically took the hit and he shoots the soldier instead. But then very quickly the rest of the soldiers show up and start firing on Ogata, who has to retreat. Tanigaki gets away and they capture revenge twin Nikaido. That's his name. It's weird. So, Tsurumi, being the psychopath he is, cuts off his other ear.
Because why not?
Face wound.
Make it symmetrical, right?
Yeah, that's what he said. He wanted to be symmetrical. And he threatens to cut off his nose so he can find out who the rest of the traitors are, but he doesn't comply. He's like, whatever. He just says something that like really pisses him off. And then Tsurumi tells him, I'll let you kill Sugimoto. And he's like, oh, it's him right there. He's one of the traitors.
And that dude gets his nose cut off, it sounds like.
They're doing something to him, but it's off screen.
I mean, they're cutting something off.
I mean, they just showed you cutting a ear off. I mean, like, what are they doing to this dude that they're not going to put that on screen? Has to be awful. But we go back to our trio of Sugimoto, Asurpa, and Shirashai, who are talking about a legendary giant fish that ate a bear. Conveniently, Shirashi falls into the river and starts to get swallowed by one. It kind of looked like a very big catfish. A man that Asurpa knows named Kiroranke, whatever. Kiroranke Nispa jumps into the river and kills the giant fish. It turns out he was in the 7th Division, but under like a different lieutenant. We then find he then drops the bombshell that Asurpa's father is Naparobo, basically meaning he betrayed everybody and was going to take the gold for himself, possibly, and go overseas. This is when they then plan to break into the prison Noburabo is in and confirm for themselves his true identity. They go back to the Ainu village and plan out their infiltration of the prison. Kiroranke joins them, even though Sugimoto is suspicious of him. And there's just a short after credits scene with sexy lady who runs a hotel and probably murders people. And that's how that episode ends.
Okay, Nispa is fucking hot. It's just a shame that he has like a small bush on his chest. But other than that, he's pretty hot.
Okay. So there's like after Shiraishi gets pulled out of the water, he's like sitting by a fire, like drying off, but like his junk are exposed. So to censor his junk, they just take like a picture of his face and put it over his
face.
crotch.
It's like a goofy face.
It's like a Shimoneta level of like censorship. It's like so fucking funny.
I mean, what else do we expect from Kinky Kamuy?
Yeah. And then I just also thought it was interesting, they basically implied that Asurpa is part Russian because her father and Nispa or whatever came from Russia to Japan. And I guess her father married an Ainu woman, so she's like part Ainu, part Russian, I guess.
I guess that's why she has blue eyes. Okay, makes sense.
Yeah. The Shinsengume guy was like lifting her up early in this episode. She's like, oh, you have like flecks of green in your eyes. Like, yeah. So he's like, oh, it must be from Russia or something.
All right.
Oh man, this show
was it Russia?
Because
thought it was something
also
else,
they hint about Russia, and then they say later in the episode that they're playing like an instrument back at like the village, and it's from this island called Sakhalin. And I looked that up, and it's like a Russian island, like near northern Japan. So yeah, they definitely came through Russia at least to get to Japan.
Okay.
So yeah,
I can
this
accept that.
fucking show, it's crazy.
Oh god.
Do you think like they'll just get to find the treasure and there'll just be a giant boner there?
A bunch
It's
of
like
golden,
it's all in the shape of a
it's all
giant
gold
dog.
golden
boner.
boners.
It's a golden boner.
Golden dildos everywhere.
It's a giant like mountain shaped like a dick, just made of gold.
No, all the coins are stamped with a dildo.
It's just so weird because like earlier in the series I was like, oh, this is like a pretty serious show that just has like a lot of funny moments. And
Yeah.
now it's like, no, this is a wild and wacky crazy show with like a few serious moments.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
But I
And
love
it's
every
crazy because
second of it.
like Crunchyroll did all those interviews with like people who worked on it, and like it's insane how much research they did into it, and then they just go wacky nonsense with it.
Yeah.
like even down to like the models of the guns were like thoroughly researched. Like one of them was like only all they had to go was like a grainy black and white photo. Like it, yeah, it's just insane the level they went to learn all this stuff, even especially about the Ainu. But
I just imagine there's some people in the corner who like really were serious about this and were like meticulously going over these guns, and then there's some other people like in the main room just getting drunk one night, and they're like, we're going full boner on this fucking show.
It's like the producers and writing staff just getting drunk, and then like the art people are just like slaving over their desks, like trying to be accurate as possible.
I can see one guy going, look, check this out. What do you think about this? And he's like, and then an orca comes out of the water and grabs the guy. And he's like, you're a fucking genius, man.
That's exactly what happened.
You'll never see it coming. Oh, man. All right, so should we move on to another wild and ridiculous show?
Sure.
Go for it.
So Tuesdays, we've got Legend of the Galactic Heroes, the Neue on Crunchyroll. I just wanted to talk briefly. They did a special episode. And I went into this thinking like, oh, I'll watch like a couple minutes, see if it's any good. And it's like, probably just skip over it. But it was actually really fun. They went to the Legend of the Galactic Heroes Cafe, which is in Ueno, Tokyo. And it was Kirkiais's new voice actor, who was like there like hosting the whole thing, and he goes in and like he gets served some like food that's like asparagus, but it's like supposed to be the Planetary Alliance fleet, and some waitress comes in with a blowtorch and just like opens fire on the fleet.
Oh my
It's
god.
just really funny, like all the things they did. But then it was great because they brought in the old voice actor for Kirkiais from the original OVAs,
nice.
Masashi Hironaka, and had them like chat together about like the differences between the old show and the new show. And like Hironaka, the old guy, he thought like, yeah, like basically the biggest difference is the battle scenes. Like now they're all CGI and stuff, but he said like he liked how the old ones were kind of lonely but elegant and had like classical music and like bolero playing over them. And then eventually later on they bring in like the original writer of the novels to just talk with them a little bit. He's getting like really old, but he was just like very happy to be there, like chatting with them. I like would recommend watching this. It was like super fun for a fan of like Legend of Galactic Heroes to watch through this stuff. So yeah,
I didn't get to watch it.
Well,
Yeah,
it's not on Verve. It's only maybe
it's on Crunchyroll, but not Verve. That's
yeah,
weird.
because I looked for it and I couldn't find it. So it's only on Crunchyroll. So if you're listening to this episode and you're like, why can't I find the special episode? You have to look on Crunchyroll.
Yeah.
So.
All right, tell us about episode 9.
All right. So episode 9 starts out with the round table meeting of the government on what to do militarily after winning the Iserlohn battle and capturing the fortress. And the debate is between like two factions. And one of them wants to use the opportunity of having the upper hand to make peace on good terms with the Empire. And then the other one wants to kind of push forward and like do a big forward push militarily and go into the Empire and make a big attack. Right. And the issue is that they can't really put more money or labor resources into the war than they already are because they're putting everything into it. Out. And the country is like so close to economic collapse. But then there's other people who are like, well, we can't afford not to because if we don't win, like we'll just be dead. So like we have to put everything into it. And then they always go on and on about how like, oh, it's a tyrannical government, and so morally, like we can only try to free them. And it just reminds me of like when the U.S. goes into a place and like they don't want us to be there, and like we don't want to be there, and then people just keep arguing that like morally we have to free these people, but like the people hate us. Like it just reminded me a lot of that.
And then it inevitably ends up as a worse situation.
Yes,
after
yes.
the fact.
So it seems like a very similar debate, in some ways, obviously not always. And yeah, no, and it just seemed like so out of context because they're sitting here just going back and forth like, well, da, 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 and like their whole society is just about to massively collapse, and they're not even thinking practically. It just amazes me.
Right.
Yang, meanwhile, wants to retire like he stated before the Iserlohn fight, and so he tries to submit his application to retire. And he even plans a dinner like later the same night to explain to Julian like, hey, I'm retiring. But the military doesn't let him and rejects his retirement request immediately. And he's like, no, we need you. We're not going to let you retire. And Yang is just like, aw.
Yeah, well, they kind of like almost guilt trip him.
A
like
little
three different
bit,
people
yeah.
come up and say
Like,
shit
what
to
are you
him.
going to do? What's your fleet going to do without you? We made this fleet hold all for you, Yang.
Yang's like, well, I didn't want it. You fucking made me.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I think one of the weaknesses of this particular episode is that they cut the political meeting like into two parts with the Yang scene in the middle. And it didn't really make sense to me why they did that. So like after they do that Yang scene, they go back to the meeting from before. And basically all of the politicians bring up suddenly that like, well, our party is going to lose this upcoming election, but if we're able to get a major military win out, like our approval ratings will jump up and then we'll probably win. And as soon as this is brought up, like they immediately vote and they pass this huge military like attack basically that they're going to do now that may very well collapse their economy, but hey, they'll win the next election, so all is fine.
This show is so realistic.
It is.
It's painful.
It's
almost
the sort of
painful
shit
to watch
happens.
because of how realistic it is.
Yes, because this really is the sort of shit that happens. Like, and you know.
Yeah, that's why I didn't like it.
Leo's like, I just want my escape anime.
Yeah, if you come to anime for escapism, Legend of Galactic Heroes isn't quite it. It's
definitely
more of like a mirror back on like the mistakes of society.
Yeah, pretty much. Oddly, Trunkyite, I always hate saying his name, like that really corrupt politician from the very beginning of the series, doesn't vote for this motion, and he even publicly wants it remembered that he's against it. And I think like he knows something, or he's smarter than he looks, because like
Right.
he should have gone for this because that's his whole gig, right? Later in the evening, Yang and Julian go out to the restaurant like they planned earlier, but they're about to leave without eating because it's like full, and Yang didn't make any reservations because, like, you know, it's Yang. What's he gonna do? But then Greenhill's daughter, who is his secretary, remember, like comes up to him and is like, oh, hey, me and my dad, who's like the Admiral Greenhill, are eating here, like you can join us. And so the four of them eat together. They comment on how Julian is doing really well in school and on the sport they call it flying soccer, but in the books they call it flyball, and they describe it as kind of like football in the air in zero gravity, like football in slow motion. And they keep saying it's kind of like elegant because it's slow motion and it kind of looks like a dance, but it's also a sport. I don't know. It sounds weird to me. And then
honestly, my first thought was like, is it like Quidditch?
Yeah, me too.
I mean, I guess you're floating, so maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, they talk about how well Julian is doing in that. So I guess he's not only smart, he's also athletic. And then there's this scene where like Admiral Greenhill very obviously tries to set up Yang with his daughter. And it's like they kind of show it here, but like in the books it's really much more awkward. And the daughter like grabs her silverware in the books and like makes these violent noises against her plate while he's doing it. And I really kind of wanted to see them animate that, but it was good enough that they even had that little bit in there.
Right.
They cut to a scene where they sort of show you how nefarious Fazan is being, because they're basically manipulating the war so that both sides keep fighting so they continue to make money off both sides. And in my opinion, it's much better of a scene than when they originally show Fazan in the original anime.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they show us...
I agree. It gives you way more insight into like what Fazan is doing. They're like maneuvering to buy up like war bonds and like buy up like the ship suppliers to the alliance. So like even if the war ends, at that point they'll own like everything that's important.
Yeah, pretty much. Like they'll just, even though
economic victory.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So then they show a scene back at the Allied forces again. On the way home, the transport network breaks down, and Yang and Julian have to walk home. Julian brings up that Jessica came to the house a month ago, and Yang asks if Jessica had said anything when she visited. Julian says that she realized like that he had adopted Julian because she didn't really know that he'd adopted a kid. And so she just says to take care of Yang and leaves. And Yang kind of thinks to himself at this point, well, I guess you made up your mind. And I always kind of wonder if he means like that she made up her mind about becoming a politician because that's what she does after that. Or if she means like she made up her mind about being with him because she's like, well, you have someone else. Because there's like definitely romantic tension between them. Like she was about to get married to Lap, but like she also before liked him. And like there was kind of a thing there. He looks kind of sad, but he accepts it. And then Julian is like, oh, I was just looking at the same star as you. And Yang immediately is like, you don't have to look at the same star as me. Everyone should follow their own star, no matter how unlucky it is. And it's a very obvious reference, like that Yang does not want Julian to follow the same path that he has. He wants Julian to have more opportunities and more choices in life than he has.
Exactly. Like, you don't have to follow my footsteps into the military. Like, especially we know how Yang feels about the military.
Yes.
Like, he doesn't want that for Julian. So, yeah.
Yeah. While the politics are slightly entertaining, this is what I was afraid of, having to talk about them when we picked up this show. So I'm just like, darn it.
I mean, I love it.
I mean,
I don't know.
I like it too. Yeah. But I like talking about politics in general. So, it's just like my kind of thing. But I love seeing like the woman who's on the council, like Windsor, I think is her name, who is just like such a fanatic that she believes like it is our noble and just purpose to like free these people from the empire. Yeah, and it's just like,
she even says like even if every single citizen dies in the attempt, it's worth it, and we still have to do it. And I'm just like, do you fucking hear yourself? Like,
oh no, she's just like corrupt as fuck.
I also I liked how the show got into like the consequences of their battles. Like at the Battle of Astarte, they lost like millions of soldiers in that battle, and like it's gonna have a crippling economic effect on them because they have to pay the pensions to those soldiers' families. So they're like factoring that into like whether they should strike. And then also, even though Yang like miraculously took Iserlohn, like they had to take a 500,000 POWs, and they have to feed those POWs. So it's another like huge drain on their economy.
Well,
so
and then they also
I like
talk
that it
about
gets into those like specifics.
Because Yang won that battle without any casualties, that causes the military like to be overconfident and think that they can do this. And I think
they get into that in the next episode.
Yeah, and I think Yang just like blames himself for it because it kind of, I mean, it's not really fair for him to blame himself for it, but like also it is kind of a consequence of it. It's interesting.
All right, so I'll move on to that next episode. So it starts off with Rubinsky, the leader of Fezon, tipping off the Empire that the Free Planets Alliance are planning to launch like a 30 million man attack. And so after Iserlohn was lost, Rubinsky is telling his mistress that like he decided that like the war needs to tip back in the favor of the Empire now. So he's helping them because he just continues to profit off of both sides as long as the war continues. So, like, yeah, like Kat was just saying, Yang regrets, he's thinking about it out loud, kind of like with Julian around. He regrets taking, actually, no, I think he's talking to Sithole at the time. He regrets taking Iserlohn so easily because it has put the thought in the heads of, like, the politicians and even, like, the general populace that, like, victory in war comes so easily. Why wouldn't we just continue to have, like, more easy wins? And it's just, they don't understand that this was, like, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity kind of thing. Only, like, a genius tactician pulled it off, and it's not going to be an everyday occurrence. So yeah, there's this big showdown at a military strategy meeting for the Alliance, and Andrew Falk is introduced. He's like this young admiral or officer. I think he's a vice admiral or something. And he's like Windsor, the woman on the council. He's like feverishly in support of attacking, and he has this plan, quote unquote, which is basically just to launch this huge fleet into Imperial space, and we'll just figure it out on the way what we're gonna do. And like Yang and some of the other admirals are like, "That's your fucking plan? Are you kidding me?" And they're like, they make all these good points, like we're not gonna be able to protect our supply lines, like they'll be able to flank us. Like, Reinhard's going to be leading the command of the fleet opposing us, and he's a genius tactician, so he's going to know how to take advantage of this. But yeah, Falk is just like, no, we have to bring justice to the Empire.
Well, Falk just wants to look good. That's really what it is.
Yeah, he wants to, exactly. So, like, Sithole and Yang talk after the meeting when everybody else is left.
You're not going to look good when your 30 million fleet gets crushed.
But if it doesn't, if they have great victories, that's the only way for him to really become more of a hero than Yang.
Yeah,
and
but
that's
we know
what
what's
he's trying
happen.
to do. Yeah, I know it's never going to happen, but like we know that. But like he's thinking about himself and only himself, and he's just completely narcissistic.
Yep.
And yeah, the only way he can move up faster than Yang is to become more of a hero than Yang and like force the military's hand or the government's hand to promote him even higher.
Yeah.
And so like Sithole is like, yeah, this is why I refused your resignation. I didn't know exactly this was coming, but I knew something like this was coming, and I needed somebody like reasonable like you around to push like your narrative and like push your like ideas. And so he says like his whole plan is he wants Yang to become the leader of the military in the future to like stop these crazy pro-war fanatics from winning. And he also says something like really interesting. He says like, I don't even want us to win this expedition. I just want us to fail with as few casualties as possible. Because if we do win, then like the pro-patriotic war faction will become so powerful and so loud that it'll drown everything else out, and there'll be no stopping it at that point.
It's an interesting line. He kind of walks there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I did.
Then, yeah.
I did think it was weird how they changed Falk's character design so much, because in the original he's a real sinister looking guy with like really pale skin and dark hair, and they've made him like really handsome in this one and like blonde, and I was kind of like, this is supposed to be Falk, and it kind of like made me confused for a second.
In some ways it makes almost more sense to me, because like it's like, oh, this young pretty boy like who has everything handed to him kind of, and is just like seducing everybody into thinking, oh no, we can win, like there's no reason for us to stop attacking, you know.
You're probably
I kind of
right.
get why they went that direction.
Yeah. Also, I've always wanted to say this, like, I do not know why they made Chief Sithole's name Chief Sithole, because it sounds so close to shithole, and every time I read it or hear it, that's what I think they're saying. I don't know why that choice was made.
Oh, there was somebody else's name that has had like cock in it or something.
Yeah. Well, fuck. Yeah. Fuck.
Yeah, was it fuck?
Yeah.
So yeah, that all happens. That's most of the episode, and then in the last part of the episode, Reinhard in the Empire is discussing his plan with his like admirals about defending against this attack, and of course they've been tipped off to what's coming. And he kind of asks his admirals for like their input. They're like, oh, we should meet them right at the end of the corridor and like just attack them head on. They'll never expect it. And he's like, no, that's exactly what they would expect. And he's like, no, Oberstein, tell him like the real plan, because he's starting to trust Oberstein already. And like their plan is to let the Alliance stretch deep into Imperial space. This is exactly what Yang was worried about. Like, extend their supply lines to the limits, like even sacrifice like some bases or planets or something, and then just attack them when they're at their limits and just completely destroy them and dish out like an equal amount of bloodshed for the stupidity that they're showing. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Oh, the guy I was thinking about is Alexander Bukak.
Bukak.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good name, too.
We got fuck, Bukake, and shithole.
So, yeah, in general, these 2 episodes were like, I like these 2 episodes a lot in the original series, and I like them here, too. It's a big setup for the last 2 episodes of this season. You can probably guess how things are going to go. It's not going to go well. But it's important to look at, like, I like how the series looks at like the terrible decision-making process that gets to these catastrophic events that are to come. So it's important to understand that, because that's more important than the actual battle itself, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Yep.
I don't have anything to add. I am enjoying it, but man, I don't want to talk about the show when it's over. I don't know why.
I think you'll like the last 2 episodes a lot. They're going to be good. They'll be really good. If they're anything like the original series.
Yeah. You'll like that. So.
All right.
Cool.
Next show, Kat.
All right. We've got the episode 9 of Yotsuiro Biyori, Mont Blanc Boy. So... at the beginning of this episode, Isago is back, bitches. And he explains how he's always loved shoujo manga because he's grown up with sisters. Isago sees Tsubaki bringing out potato sweets and iced coffee, and he gets really excited. He's like, "Shisho!" Because he thinks of Tsubaki as like his master. And he asks him how he should ask out the person that he likes, since he respects Tsubaki's opinion so much. And at first, I thought Tsubaki was the one that Isago liked, because that whole fantasy sequence from hell that we witnessed like in a couple episodes ago. But apparently,
we totally know why now.
I guess I don't know. It's fucking weird anyway. But apparently, it's a girl he knows from work who is younger than him, but also reliable and awesome. Just like the shoujo manga, except gender swapped.
She's pretty hot, but probably just the glasses.
Hot. Yeah, she is hot. Tsubaki insists that he's bad with people, and so Gurei should give him advice. Unfortunately, Gurei's advice is just him saying useless things like, "You have to strike when the iron is hot. Go bam, get a boom, and wait for a bing." And then be light.
Bing, bada boom.
I know, be light and fluffy, which make no fucking sense. I don't know.
Hey, in the end, it works.
I mean, I guess. He stumbles his way through it. So he's able to get her to come to the shop. And they come. He notices, Isago notices that her arm has, like, a lot of Band-Aids on it. And at first I was like, oh shit, what serious thing is this going to be?
Yeah, it's like, is she cutting herself?
Are
we going like really dark here?
I
what
know.
The fuck
I was
is
like,
this?
what is this? But when they get to the restaurant, you see that she's really tired and she falls asleep for a second. And then Sweet quickly like comes over and is like, "Oh, those injuries are from a kitten," because like somehow he just fucking magically knows. I don't know.
Well, his glasses turn into like a Dragon Ball scouter. He's like calculating and analyzing the injury, and he's like, "It must have been a kitten." Because he knows everything about cats.
I don't
apparently.
know any kittens that are this fucking savage. Maybe you can attest, Leo. Like, what were your battle wounds? Were they this intense?
Well, they actually really were just starting to get to playing around before they get taken away, so I don't know. But I have played with kids before, and they can be savage because they don't really know their strengths. And their claws are just, they're needles at that point. So, like, it takes nothing just to break your skin.
Okay, because it seemed kind of bullshit to me that she has, like so many bandages. We're worried she's cutting herself from kittens. I don't know.
God.
But yeah, she explains, like, she's been up 3 nights in a row trying to take care of them, and that's why she's so tired. Tokitaka brings out a new lunch special that he just started, making. It's called a katsudon lunch with silky egg, and then it's got yuzu pepper and green onion in it, and they both really enjoy it. Asago's really happy to see that Hayashi enjoys it as well, and like they decide to come back later. she comments as they're leaving that she's kind of tired since she just ate all that food. And he's like, I will do anything for you. I will support you. And all that bullshit. And I'm like, all right, dude, we get it. You're fucking smitten. We know. The second part of the episode starts out with Tsubaki at another sweets shop called Bcom, which sounds very posh. Like, I'd go to a fucking place called Bcom. I'd be like, yes, give it to me. It literally
just means green apple.
Well, I know, but it sounds fancy because it's in French, okay?
I know.
So they get served chestnut Mont Blanc sets. And a Mont Blanc set is basically just like a mountain of whipped cream and other toppings. Like, and then it's surrounded by this like chestnut paste. And it kind of looks like spaghetti. Because when they like make the chestnuts into paste, it kind of comes out in these like weird little paste noodles that look like spaghetti. And so then they put that over the whipped cream and toppings, and then they sometimes add ganache on top, and that's what a Mont Blanc is. So and they cut it open at one point in the anime, and it looks so fucking good. There's like oh man,
yeah,
I want one of these. Damn it. But yeah,
delicious.
I know, but little did they know that the chef at Bcom was Sunozaki, that guy that knows Sui's brother, who's fucking Sui's brother. Let's just be honest. Who hides?
Oh wow, that's what you think?
I think so.
Oh yeah, you don't remember this, Leo? This was definitely a theory of Kat's.
God.
And he hides in the corner and smirks at them while they eat at his restaurant like a fucking creepo. So I don't know. So later he like comes over to Rokuhogoro to tease them about how they ate at his restaurant. And it kills him that they may not have liked my Mont Blanc, and I can't even sleep at night, and all of this bullshit. And so he basically is like, you tried my Mont Blanc, I want to try yours. And Tsubaki has made his own, so he's like, I'm afraid to serve it to Sunozaki because even though he's mischievous and playful, he's actually really hardworking, and I don't like want him to not like it. While Tsubaki is in the kitchen having his like mini panic attack, because Tsubaki's always having a mini panic attack, let's be honest. Sui and Sunozaki have this kind of weird discussion where Sunozaki asks Sui if he wants to ask him something about his brother, but Sui doesn't really say anything. And then Tsubaki comes back out with a Mont Blanc, and it's basically like a more traditional Japanese version of like an original Mont Blanc. It looks pretty similar to me, except it doesn't have rum in it, which the original one did.
Sad face.
But yeah, it basically everyone says it's amazing, and it looks good, and just makes me want chocolate. And so I was kind of irritated because I was like, God damn it, I can't eat one of these. I know. Then later they all get onto the subject of when Sui decided to take over the restaurant from his grandfather. And Sunozaki is surprised to find out that it's when Sui was in middle school. And Sunozaki compares Sui to his quote-unquote older twin brother. I always hate when they do that bullshit with the older. Yeah. And he thinks that Sui is probably more mature because he's able to recognize when he loves and values something, unlike how his brother does, which I thought was interesting. I don't know. Yeah. I guess we're going to meet the brother more soon because they keep mentioning him.
Yeah, I assume so.
Yeah.
I really liked one part near the end of the episode where Sui is remembering his like grandfather's philosophy about like making tea, and his grandfather's like, yeah, like the emotions that you have when you're making the tea will change the like taste and the flavor of the tea. Like, so if you're like uptight and nervous, the tea will be bitter, but if you're calm and like composed, the tea will be like sweet and like relaxing. And like the scientific side of my brain is like, that can't be true, right? Like, like if you just brew tea for the right amount of time at the right temperature, it should taste the same exact every time. But then I think about like, well, when I eat good food in like a good environment, it tastes better than when I eat good food in a bad environment. So I can't really say there's no truth to this idea. Like, it's an interesting philosophy. It
is interesting. I agree. I kind of thought it was sort of a magical thinking type of thing, but something that just makes you feel good when you hear it. I don't know.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
How about you, Leo? What you got to say?
Nothing.
Okay.
All right.
I can't believe you wrote as much as you did.
Oh, fuck off.
Well, go into episode 10 because I need
like
to talk about some
chocolate.
cute girls.
All right.
You
Okay.
really like chocolate.
I do. I fucking do. So, okay. Episode 10. She doesn't know Rokuhodo yet. So there's a young girl out with her aunt to pick out like a kimono bow, I think. The girl's name is Neneko-chan, which is fucking adorable. Like everything about this girl is just it's just so fucking cute. Like I even admit that she's adorable. Like
Quick side note, her voice actor is Kaede Hondo, who voiced Minoa, who is the main character in Anime Gataris, who I also thought was super cute the entire time. And I think she's also voicing one of the comic girls this season, like Koyume or something, if anybody's watching that show.
That makes a lot of sense because you know I'm watching that trash because I am trash. So
Yeah.
I'd also like to say about this girl, she kind of has a very interesting design because most people don't do it, but she has like blue hair, blue eyes, a blue dress. I think the ribbon was even blue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like they rarely
No,
ever
the
do.
ribbon was pink, I think, in her hair.
was it pink?
I'm pretty
Okay.
sure.
Okay, but
Also,
it's
her
just-
aunt is a very famous voice actress as well, like Manami Noto or something like that. She voices a bunch of Fate Grand Order characters, like Scott Hotch, and if anybody's interested.
we know Bcom is.
Yep.
I was like, this girl is so cute. I need to know who it is.
I
basically what that
knew
was.
that she was gonna push all your buttons. I mean, she pushed my buttons, and I usually hate like cute little girl characters. So I was like,
Right.
oh shit, Bcom's gonna eat this up.
Yep.
So anyway, there.
I'm so glad Kat does not have me figured out like Bcom, so I don't have to put up with this bullshit all the time.
I mean, one day I will.
You're too unpredictable, Leo.
Yeah, one day I'll
I
figure
gotta
you
be
out.
careful.
You just gotta spend some time with me in voice chat, and then I'll figure out all your secrets.
And you all up on voice chat like 11 o'clock at night. I've already been in bed for like 2 hours.
What an old man. Okay, anyway. So Neneko is worried that her aunt will get tired because she just got out of the hospital, I guess. So they look online at a rating site and they find Rokuhodo on there. And they're like, all right, we'll go here to rest and have like some drinks and stuff. But the girl also seems to be emphatic that her aunt can't trust the reviews and that it may not be as good as they say. I guess because recently when her aunt got out of the hospital, her family threw like a party at this well-reviewed like formal restaurant and it turned out to not be good at all and be very uncomfortable. I don't know. So she's just fucking adorable. I don't know. So, okay, they get to Rokuhodo. They order lattes, anmitsu, and a black bean matcha chiffon cake. And so I had to look up what anmitsu is because I didn't fucking know. And it's an old-fashioned Japanese dessert that's made with like gelatin cubes. And the gelatin cubes are made from like agar, which is, I guess, a kind of sweetener. And it's often served with like fruit and other stuff like ice cream. So I guess it's sort of like a sundae Japanese style. So yeah, when Neneko orders it, she gets the choice of either chocolate ice cream or vanilla, or according to Gure, she can pick both because Tsubaki is like, I can never choose if I'm asked. I can't, so I take both, which is.
I think it was green tea ice cream and vanilla ice cream. I'm pretty sure.
Was it? Oh, I don't know. Maybe I
not
misheard.
chocolate.
Okay, I thought it was.
That was okay, yeah.
Well, I still had chocolate on
She
the
just
brain.
really,
from this
she really
Mont
likes
Blanc
chocolate, so that's what she
that
thought.
I'm angry.
Cat's brain was still on chocolate from
I'm
the
telling
previous
you,
episode.
I'm so angry that there's nowhere in Indiana that I can go and get a Mont Blanc after that fucking. Anyway. So anyway, she gets it. She's very excited. She gets both kinds of ice cream. She's very happy. Neneko and her aunt get served their lattes, which Gure has done his terrible fucking latte art like normal. And he describes it as a happy bouquet of blooming smiles, but really it looks like a bouquet of skulls. And Gure tells Neneko, I was inspired by your charm. And I'm just like, how is she supposed to take that? Like, what the fuck? So later in the day, the gang find the... and so when Neneko and her aunt leave, Neneko's just basically like, I was so surprised. I came in all negative. You guys blew me away. I'll definitely be back. It was all happiness, you know? Then later in the day, the gang find the review site that Naneko was talking about, and apparently a lot of people get on to review the latte art and talk about how silly and ridiculous it is. And there's one of the pictures, like, of one of these ridiculous latte arts that Gure does, and it just says, "This cured my illness." And I was like, what the fuck? And then when Gure acts like...
That's awesome. I didn't notice that.
I know. And then when Gure acts like he's going to go look at, like, the reviews himself on the computer, like, Tsubaki freaks out and in a panic is like, "Don't look," because he doesn't want, like, to upset him by popping his bubble on how people see his latte art. And I just died. It was hilarious. And then the second half of this episode is all about Napolitan. I had a really hard time pronouncing that for a while. Which apparently is a Japanese amalgam spaghetti dish that they have come up with in their cute little heads that's made with ketchup, some sort of like hot dogs, and like peppers and other vegetables. I don't know. That just sounds so terrible to me. But, you know, it's Japan. I'm sure that they think it's amazing. Maybe it really is. I've never tasted it. I don't know. It's featured on a popular TV show that evening. And Sui talks about how he inherited his Napolitan recipe from his granddad. And then he has this dramatic moment where he explains that he tried to make it. And, like, it just, of course, turned out terrible because he's cursed. I think my favorite part of this half of the episode is when they talk about how Gure, like, playfully makes fun of the dish when he learns what's in it when he first hears about it. Me too. Because he's like, "Ketchup on pasta. Poo, poo, poo." And he's like,
yeah, because he spent so much time in Italy. He's like, "This is an abomination." But they do say, like, he has grown to love it. So, like, I'm the same way as Guri, where I'm like, as an Italian, I'm like, this is just ridiculous. Why would you do this to pasta? Like, you can't call this pasta. But I've also never had, like, a really good Napolitan in Japan. So someday I would like to rectify that and just, like, get the real deal and see how I feel about it.
I have a feeling it's a really simple food, kind of like grilled cheese or mac and cheese. Like, I have a feeling it's not fancy. The whole idea of it is just that everyone knows of it. I don't know.
Right.
So the next day they get overrun with orders for Napolitan because of the TV show, and everyone saw it, and so everyone wants it. And they start to run out of ingredients. And they have this very dramatic, like, moment in the show where they're like, "What will we do? Gure, can you make it?" And so Gure has to, like, bike over there at the speed of light to get some more wieners so they can eat it on their ketchup pasta. I don't know. It's terrible. And then they have a little side story within this this half of the episode where they have these two sisters come in and they order Napolitan like everyone is, and they talk about their struggles with work, and one of them is thinking of quitting their job, and the other one tells them that they should try harder because, you know, only when you put your heart in your work will it pay out for you, and, you know, it all turns out well for them and everything. It's heartwarming. It was a good episode. I think part of the... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. You continue. No, you go first. I have, like, a longer point.
I think part of the charm of this series is just, like, learning about different dishes in Japan that you had no idea existed, and just being like, "Oh, that's a thing." And, like,
that's the appeal of, like, almost every cooking show, though.
Well, but, like, I feel like this one has more, like, things I'd never heard. I don't know, like, because Food Wars has more fancy stuff. And I think this stuff, while it does have some fancy stuff, it also has just some dishes that are very common that I didn't know about. So.
Okay.
I also just think the dishes look, like, super appetizing in this anime. Like, you want to eat these dishes, like, for sure. They do a good job with that. Yeah, I was just talking about, like, the sisters. Like, I really liked the design of, like, the lighter-haired sister who's, like, having trouble at work. Especially, like, she puts her hair up when she goes to eat food, and she just, like, looks gorgeous at that point. And so I started looking into, like, who the hell is the character designer of this series? Because I like all of these character designs. And the character designer like it's the first time he's ever been a character designer. So I was like, oh,
whoa.
So maybe it's not that. I mean, well, maybe he's just a really good character designer. Like he's been a key animator on stuff before.
Maybe he just hasn't used all his ideas yet.
Yeah,
Maybe.
so I thought partially that, and then I looked at the art director for the show is like a legend, and I didn't realize this until now. His name is Hiromasa Ogura, and he was like the art director for things like Ghost in the Shell, Pat Labor, Jinro, like Fooly Cooley, and that's just like a couple of things. Like he's been the art director for like a million shows, like a million really good shows. So I was like, oh, that's why this show looks so damn good every week. It's because this art director is like a genius, and like probably other people are dying to work with him.
Yeah, so, I mean, this is why we have Bcom, because without Bcom, we would not know these things about who is working on what show. So thank you,
This is why
Bcom.
I go on tangents when I'm really attracted to cute girls in anime and find out who drew them.
Yeah, I know. I've never seen me like, oh man, she's really hot, and then just like had to find out who drew her. I've looked up a voice actor occasionally, but that's about the extent of it.
Well, I did that too. I did a lot of things for this episode because I was like, damn, these girls are cute.
Yeah, I mean, they are. They put a lot of detail into even the small characters that you only see for like 5 minutes. That's interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
All right, should we move on?
Yeah.
All right, so next we have Steins Gate Zero, Episode 9, Pandora of Eternal Return, Pandora's Box. So we had that like world line shift at the end of the last episode. So here Ocarine wakes up in the hospital, not knowing where or when he is. But quickly, like Mayuri, Daru, and Maho all show up, and he's just like running around the hospital frantically, wondering what's going on. And they tell him like, "Oh, you just collapsed, and so you've been at the hospital since the New Year's party." But after like a couple of minutes, like talking with them and like observing, it seems like they've returned to the original world line that they've been in for like most of the show. And they're still talking about like Amadeus and everything. And like Maho says like her apartment was broken into and that like the Wako city offices were the victim of like a gas attack. So they can't get Amadeus back online at all or like recover any data. And then also in the hospital is Fubuki, who's one of Mayuri's cosplayer friends. And she fainted at exactly the same time that Rintarou did. And when she talks about like what she remembers from this really vivid dream she has, it's like clear she has memories from an alpha world line where something really bad happened to Mayuri. And so like she's been diagnosed with like this weird like encephalitis type fever. And apparently a lot of people have been getting it lately. So it seems like whatever like time machine experiments are going on in the world, it's like affecting a lot of people and everybody's getting kind of world line confusion and it's becoming like a widespread problem. So yeah, Rintarou texts Moeka and asks her, can you look into these gas attacks? And then like she shows up at the lab and they have this weird, really awkward text conversation where they're like literally just texting back and forth right in front of Mayuri and Maho. And Maho's just like, why aren't you guys just talking to each other? And they just keep texting. It's pretty funny. But yeah, for fear of her safety, they decide to have Maho stay at Ferris's like apartment. And Ferris is just like over the moon about having Maho Nyan stay with her. She's really excited. And so after this, Suzuha then like confronts Rintarou and demands to know if the world line has changed. She like pulls a gun on him because she's like, it's very important to me if this world line has changed. I need to know.
That was really dramatic. I was like, there was not a need for that at all.
There's a lot of overdramatic stuff happening in these couple episodes, I felt like. Suzuha knows that like Russia and America are a path to World War III, and she just can't wait any longer because like the more they experiment with time machines, the higher the likelihood that they're going to change something and then make it impossible to reach the Steins Gate world line. So Rintarou asks her if she would even be able to choose between these two world lines, like letting this whole line go to waste because like, you know, he's actually had to make that choice multiple times. And she gets pissed off and she actually fires the gun. Like the bullet like grazes his face and she's like, the next bullet will hit. And I'm like, Jesus, Suzuha, calm down.
Yeah,
but like, I can understand where she's coming from.
Take a chill pill, please.
Yeah, she's just like had it up to here with his like wishy-washy bullshit, and like she needs something to happen.
Well, but you don't want to like actually kill the only person who can like save the world because you were pissed off at them.
That's a fair point also. Rintarou explains that he sacrificed more than she could imagine to change the world lines before, but like nothing he did could change the future or make it better. And so Suzuha is just at a loss, and she like sort of breaks down, and then like her dad, Daru, comes over and is like, don't worry, you can like rely on me. I'll figure something out. Don't worry about it. That kind of calms her down.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rintarou decides the only way out of this is to change the future without using a time machine at all, using only the information that they have. So he goes and he talks to Brown, who tells him that like he suspects that an American defense agency called DERPA, which is such a good fake acronym for like DARPA, which is like a thing that actually exists. I just thought it was really funny. Derp. And this also like shadow CIA called Stratfor are probably the groups that are in America that are pulling the strings. Like they're also probably behind like these Victor Kandre University's people's like presence in Japan. And while they can't steal the time machine, their research would have led them directly to Kurisu, and like that combined with the fact that they raided Maho's compartment and gassed like the offices means they're clearly after like Amadeus, or at the very least like Kurisu's like private notes of some kind, to like figure out how to make a time machine of their own, because they would know that Kurisu is the key. And then at the end, like Daru and Suzuha, they discuss the possibility of jumping in the time machine that they already have again. But she's like, we only have enough fuel for like 1 or 2 more jumps of like a half of year at the very most. And like, because like the batteries from the future are like much stronger, but they're out of juice. And so you can't just like replace them with one from the present day. And like, yeah, if they jump too much more, they might just get stuck outside of all time for eternity. And I'm sure that's foreshadowing of things that are to come.
Some nonsense that will happen, yeah. Well, because doesn't she say at one point, she's like, I got like the biggest battery that I can find in this time.
Like a car battery or something.
Like a giant truck battery or something. And it like worked for a second and then died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, there's just no way to power this thing current day. Yeah.
So you're telling me that the time machine is powered by electricity?
I guess it's battery powered. Yeah. I don't know.
I find that not right. I mean, there should be some kind of like nuclear fuel, something new. maybe some magma. I don't know.
I mean, maybe it is some kind of like nuclear fission battery or something, but it's out of juice. Who knows? Hey, maybe it runs off the magma from Darling and the Franks, Leo. Maybe it's made from Klaxosaurs that died.
Bcom. I just said that. I said maybe it could be powered by magma.
I know you said magma, and that's why I was like, oh, maybe it's this magma. Oh, God damn it.
Oh, my God.
All right, Kat, tell us about episode 10. What happens?
Okay, so episode 10 should be called Maho aggressively tries to date Okabe while all of the other women like give fan service, because that's what this episode is. So
it's also called like the director watched the movie Amadeus way too many times.
Yes. So like throughout this episode, there's all these comparisons between Maho and Kurisu and Mozart and Salieri. I can't say his name very well. Because Salieri. I know you're Italian, so you can probably fucking say it. It's good. Good for you, Bcom. So in real life, Salieri was a contemporary of Mozart's that was not as talented as Mozart. And so like he always wanted to have the talent of Mozart, but he didn't. And so at first he like looked up to him and then eventually started to resent him, and like it ends badly. So there's all these comparisons between Maho and Kurisu and them. And I think the idea is that so far we've seen Maho kind of like love Kurisu and talk about how much she misses her, but maybe also there was a lot of resentment there as well. Like maybe the relationship was not as green pastures as we thought, you know?
Right.
Also throughout this episode, they just date a lot. Like Maho just continues to find excuses to hang out with Okabe. Like that's like half the episode. So like it starts out, they're at this temporary office that they have right now since the other one got like gassed and broken into and all sorts of other bullshit. And then the other element of this episode comes in when Nae comes with Mayushi to the office, which is really messy and covered in like empty bento boxes. And Nae, this like, how old is this kid? Like 7? I don't fucking know.
I don't know. Maybe 10. I don't know. Something like that.
Yeah. She's just like, I'm going to be a drill sergeant and make you all clean. And of course, I don't know. Rintarou loves this because he's a fucking perv and he loves lolicons. And yeah, it's so fan servicey. It's terrible. I don't know.
But they don't stop there.
Oh no. You got more coming later. Don't you worry, listeners. So then Maho and Okabe go on the first of many dates in this episode to a coffee shop. And they discuss like how Okabe doesn't know who's doing the breaking in, but he's looking into it. And like he notices, like they talk more about the Salieri and Mozart thing. And then I don't know. And then during that conversation, Maho gets this message from someone called Dash. And like they're talking about how Dash is going to look into Kurisu's laptop and like he's retrieving it tonight. And she just got finished telling Okabe that she doesn't know of any laptop. So she's obviously hiding something. Later on, a bunch of like, okay, so a bunch of the girls go to Ferris's house. Like and notably Moeka is wearing the most racy outfit of all. It's basically lingerie. It's like a very short red nightie.
Yeah, it is.
And like then of course Ferris just continues to tickle her. Like and it might as well just be a Yuri. Like they might as well have just taken a scene out of a Yuri called like Sleepy Time Memories or some fun or something and just like had it in the middle of this Steins Gate episode because that's basically what it is. It's just more fan service. It's interesting.
Yep.
Moeka at one point during this like happy memories sleepover, happy Yuri memories, writes a memo for her novel. She explains that she's not special in any way and that this is her way of making that less true. And Maho gets mad at her and is like, you can't compare yourself to others and da-da-da-da. And then she realizes everything she's saying applies exactly to her. And she's like, oh, I should shut my mouth.
Right.
And then they go on their and then Maho and Okabe later go on their second date in which Maho drags Okabe around Akihabara on the pretext of buying computer parts. But not really. Yeah. They do a bunch of shit. They get plushies out of one of those machines. Then they actually do the serious stuff that they're there to do in the first place. And Maho asks Okabe to take her to the place where Kurisu died, and Okabe agrees. And so they go to the old radio building, and he shows her the room Kurisu died in. And Maho talks about how it's weird that people can move freely through space, but not time, and like they can't save her even though they're right here. And Okabe explains like even if they were here, they couldn't save her because he's tried it before. And he gets really upset at this point and like runs away because he almost throws up. Maho goes to him and she talks about how she knows that something went on between Okabe and Kurisu, even though she knows he doesn't want to talk about it. And then the music speeds up in that super dramatic fucking way that you know the episode is about to end. Because every time an episode is about to end in this anime, it's almost like someone comes and injects you with crack cocaine. That's what happens. I feel like every time one of the episodes is about to end. I don't know. So she confesses that she actually has Kurisu's laptop in this super dramatic way. And Okabe's like, no, you can't look into it. It's a Pandora's box that should never be opened. And like he just basically is like shaking her and explaining how it starts World War II and the music is getting louder and louder. And then the episode ends.
Yeah.
So...
There's so much setup in this anime.
I know.
Just like setting up stuff forever and ever.
I'm getting so tired of these cliffhanger endings. I mean, I understand what they're trying to do, but it gets tiring.
Yeah, get ready for Attack on Titan Season 3 then, because that always ends in cliffhangers.
That's true. Very true. Yeah, I okay, there's one little shot I liked because you know how like cluttery Maho is, like they're literally cleaning up like the room that she's staying in Ferris's apartment. And there's just like one shot this episode where you see her laptop screen and her desktop is just covered with different document files and PDF files. And I was just like,
God.
I got like anxious just looking at her desktop. It was so bad.
Poor Bcom.
Oh man, it was
he
funny.
can't stand it.
And then I was just imagining to myself like what Moeka's novel would be like.
Oh god.
And like how boring it would be. Or maybe it would be really interesting. Maybe she makes really interesting observations about everybody around her, but is just like super boring herself. I don't know, but like I kind of want to read Moeka's novel. Just see what that would be.
Yeah, it probably is. Maybe. Never know.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a lot of fan service. I don't know what to say. It's just like Steins Gate is kind of fan servicey sometimes.
I feel like this is even more than the original, though. Like a little bit more.
Yeah. That was a lot of boob fondling for sure. So, no more fan servicey than Love Live, though. I'll tell you that much. For boob fondling's sake. Love Live had like one scene every episode where they fondled boobs. It was like every fucking fucking Love Live.
Becomes like I remember intimately every detail of all of those scenes.
There used to be a YouTube compilation that got taken down, and I was very sad.
He watches it every night.
I used to send it around to people and be like, this is why Love Live is bad. And then people would watch Love Live and be like, oh, thanks for showing me that video. I'd be like, no!
Well, but in his heart, Bcom was like, this is why I secretly love Love Live. I will never admit it.
Well, Leo, tell me why you secretly love Doreiku.
Oh, it's no secret why I love it. So, episode 9, Intersection. We get a new character named Gecko that is a total M and obsessed with this website where it has a doll named Maria that will listen to your problems and basically tell you to just off yourself already. The doll one day asks him to help it battle a demon called Ryu, and to watch its underlings that will be at his school that day. He watches how Fujiko got enslaved by Tsubaki from last episode. Apparently, his judgment SCM can instantly enslave somebody without having to enter a duel. He just has to snap his fingers and bam, they're a slave.
Setagai or whatever. Wait, is his first name Tsubaki? I don't even know. Yeah, it is Tsubaki. Okay, never mind.
Okay, I was like, well, you have everybody listed like that, so that's what I went with.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's how... So he enslaved Fujiko because he said he had information on everybody that had bought the SCMs, and she wanted it. All he asked is that she just put her SCM in, and he said he's not going to duel her. Bcom, you had a problem with this?
Oh yeah, like I thought it was so weird how like he comes to her and he's just like, I have this envelope of information you need, and like she's even like, okay, hand it to me first. And then she grabs the envelope and then doesn't like look at it. She doesn't open it up to see if it actually has any of the information that like she
but
wants.
From her point of view, she just doesn't have to accept a duel. So she's like, what do I have to lose?
I agree,
that's when it backfires.
Then, I don't know, but like anytime you put it, like, so she puts in the SCM, she agrees to put it in. I'm just like, anytime you agree to put in an SCM, like you're getting into big trouble. Like, she doesn't know that like his SCM is capable of just like snapping his fingers.
We didn't even know it up till this point. This is just the big reveal.
Yeah. But it's like, don't put an SCM in your mouth, like under any circumstances when you don't have to. Like, why would you do this? Anyway.
Oh man, that really backfires on somebody in the next episode. But Gecko runs off and meets with Maria in real life, who is an older and rather large lady. And I'm just not saying she's a large lady. They gave her 3 chins.
They really did.
They took the time to edit and put that in. So, but the funny thing is, she even finds like Gecko's dedication to her a little exhausting because he's such like a fanatic. But she has him go to a park and meet up with her partner Kiyo. She also gives him an SEM before he leaves, so he has one. Turns out Ryu and Zero are at the park waiting to hear something from either Julia or Fujiko because they haven't heard from them. When Nutso Gecko shows up in pure, how do you say that? Chunibyo fashion. Just like, oh my God. then interestingly, Zero's personality changes, and he tells Ryu that he's got this. He challenges Gecko to a duel and whispers to him he is Kyo. Of course, Zero wins, but Ryu is suspicious about all of it since it seems that Gecko didn't transfer to him as a slave. He puts in his SEM to confirm, and Zero says he has been waiting for him to do that the whole time. This is when Ataru and Taiju show up just in time, and Ryu gets out of like Zero's headlock because he has him in a bind, and just before Maria shows up in a van and gets Zero and Gecko out of there. At this point, I'm going to start referring to Zero and Kyo, depending on whoever's in control.
Yeah, because like we correctly predicted like multiple personality disorder, like but it's like it goes beyond that. Like you should get into it. It's kind of nuts.
Oh yeah, it's pretty nuts. I think is it the next episode? I think they get into it.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, the second part is just mostly backstory and how Maria got involved in all this. Oh no, it's this one. So what happened is she got into some trouble and was jailed a while with Zero's mother, who is Kyo. She helped lift like Maria's spirits and become close friends with her because I guess like Maria was like in beauty school and she was getting like bullied and shit, and you know she's deep depression, but you know Kyo like brightened up her day. Eventually, Kyo dies in a car wreck, and her consciousness reawakens in her son Zero's head when he first puts the CM in.
It's just so crazy.
I will read this again. Kyo dies in a car wreck, and her conscience reawakens in her son Zero's head when he first puts in the SCM.
It's just like they don't even bother to like try to explain how like that could have happened. They're just like, oh no, this just happened.
Well, really, probably what happened is like he like imagines that his mom's consciousness, like he's just created a split personality.
Well, not necessarily, because he would never have known about Maria otherwise.
I don't know. It just seems. It's weird.
So, in one of the moments that Kyo can take over, she goes to Maria and gets her to help her. She's like, I need you to help my son. I need you to save him. You know, at first she's like, what the heck? But then she kind of like comes around because she knows things that only Kyo would know. But that's the second half. But there's just this short scene after that shows Tsubaki was watching the encounter in the park through its security cameras the whole time. And it also shows that Julia might be starting to suffer from not being able to use her SCM. So that's about, it was kind of ridiculous with the Kyo being in her son's head thing, but whatever. It's not ruining the show for me.
I think it's, I don't know, they're going to do it in the next episode too. I just think it's weird how they're adding like even more characters at this point. Like, I just think I would have preferred it if they just started like focusing on like all the groups that are already in play here.
It's like they can't decide which characters from the manga to put in there, and so they keep just putting more and more of them in. I don't know.
I've read that they're kind of like racing through a lot of content in the manga with the anime right now. Mm-hmm. And it's like, it probably would have been better if they just decided to like limit the scope and like focus on the main characters. Like, cause like, like Aya and, what's his name? Ryuga, like, don't even show up in this episode at all.
Yeah, they're not even in it once.
So it's like, that's a strange decision for like an episode 9 of an anime.
Well, but so like they're racing through plot lines, and when you race through a plot line, like it just makes it seem dumb. And like this show doesn't need more help seeming dumb. So like I don't understand why they're doing this. I don't know.
Yeah. All right, so Leo, tell us about episode 10 then.
Oh, you really want to hear about it?
Oh, I do. I'm like enraptured by this show.
Well, it's called Fall, and the first 10 minutes are kind of pointless because you don't learn a whole lot. It's just Ryu's side of the story when he acquired Julia. Basically, we get how his mother started coming home less and less, and eventually not at all when she's either got indebted to that guy and had to be a fucking hooker for the rest of her life or whatever. It made Ryu depressed, and when he got Julia, she basically filled that hole in his heart. He also notes that she started doing things without him telling her to do, like cooking for him, and then she got a tattoo just to show how much she loves Master Ryu.
I would just say about like this whole opening sequence that like we've already seen these scenes from like Julia's point of view, and it was like it felt like a little repetitive to see him from Yo, because we didn't learn that much new stuff. We learned like a couple new things, but I was like, I don't know if we needed to see all of this again.
I don't think it was necessary.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, this next scene is, I don't know what the point of it is, but it's just a random scene with Aya talking to Ryu and giving a donut at a book cafe.
I was like, she's just making friends with Ryo now, I guess.
Like this has to lead in, something has to happen next episode.
Well, I think because of like what happens in the rest of this episode, I guess they're gonna team up. I guess this is just laying the groundwork so that like when they team up coming next episode or something, it won't seem like it's completely out of the blue, but it's still like pretty out of the blue, even if they do this.
Yeah. That might be it. It might be teaming up. But anyways, this is why. Ryo's group manages to capture Megalo easily because he was at his usual pachinko parlor. They manage to find a piece of paper on him that instructs him to meet at the time bell at the dead of night. All of Ryo's slaves go and ambush him, but it was a trap by Tsubaki, so he enslaves all of them, obviously with a snap of his fingers, and calls Ryo to inform him of his major loss. But he seems to be really only concerned for Julia. He's like, fuck my other slaves. I just want Julia back.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. So this starts out as actually probably a smart move. Maria decides she's going to put in her SEM and enslave Zero herself, thus taking him away from Ryo. Good idea. But when she puts it in, the proximity alarm goes off. She like panics at first and she's like, oh, it's probably just Gecko coming back with the snacks. And she like goes outside to yell at him like, you should be walking around with your SEM in your mouth. But she runs into like just some random guy wearing a gas mask. And his only good skill is shooting because he has a slingshot and a ball. And he tells you all this. And then he shoots her in the head with a pellet. And then he's like, hey, if you can get away, you win. She obviously accepts, but she's really big and she tries to run away. And he just like shoots her in the ankle. So now she's enslaved to this new character, and that's how the episode ends.
Mm-hmm.
So it's funny. When I saw the gas mask guy, I couldn't not think of like I think his name is Mustard from My Hero Academia, who's like a guy who wears like a gas mask.
Yeah, the villain with the no.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So this guy, where'd it go? Megalo? He was enslaved by Fujiko, correct?
But then, maybe, yeah. It's hard to remember.
Yeah, but when she became Ryu's slave, shouldn't have
ownership should have transferred over. Yeah,
right. Mm-hmm. Even though she's somebody else's slave now, I don't think that's how it works. But this Megalo guy, is he the fat guy from the very first episode?
Yeah, I think so. I'm pretty sure.
What
it's
happened
the same
to
guy.
that lady that enslaved him? Is that Fujiko?
I think so. No, isn't that lady like with Yuga and Aya now? Isn't that the girl that they enslaved?
No, the girl they enslaved was from the like workplace that was
that's
right.
a different.
the guy that wanted to have sex with her.
I think it kind of
I
You're right.
I don't see another explanation. I was sitting there, I was like, wait, that's that one guy because he was at the pachinko parlor. He's the fat guy. It looks exactly like him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, so did that girl from the first episode, I don't remember if we learned her name, that enslaved him, I was like, did Fujiko just like have a total fucking physical change or what the fuck's going on here?
Maybe. I don't know. No, I think we did learn. No, I don't think the girl was Fujiko. I don't know. I have to go back and watch that episode because I think I remember her having a different name. So I don't know what happened with all of that.
Yeah, but then okay, so if she's not Fujiko, I want to know what happened to her.
Yeah, what happened? Yeah, I don't know.
Because
it's probably like an after effect of like the anime maybe going too fast through the manga, and they just were like, oh, we don't have time to talk about this.
Maybe they skipped the part where she dyed her hair and grew it out. I don't know.
Maybe. Oh man, I was laughing so hard when fucking Ryo gets a text from Setagaya that's just Julia like licking his foot, and there's like a shock sound effect, and I was just like, really, show, like, really, this is what we're doing now? Foot fetish porn? Like, come on, it was just ridiculous. It's like, look what I've done to your slave. Ugh.
Well, we knew what we were getting into, so.
And then they just introduce another character at the end of this. It's like, oh my god, more characters.
Well, they
it's
just keep
10.
adding more of them, and I said at the beginning, I was wondering which ones they were going to focus on, and it just seems like they decided not to focus on any of them, and they just decided to keep adding more and more.
Yeah. Maybe it's like, oh, I don't know if we're ever getting a second season, so let's put everything in here.
Throw them all in there. Just go ahead. More than merry.
Do you think it can wrap up in 2 more episodes?
No. No way. It's going to end badly.
Yeah.
It's going to be crooked and messed up.
Oh.
I've been upset with this for a while now. I just don't see there's any hope of them making it anything decent because they've just messed it up so much at this point.
Okay.
So, I don't know. I wish they.
I
had
don't know.
done
I think it
something
has
good
a
with
chance
it.
to be really good. I don't know about you guys.
I still find
The
it. I can
sass.
see all the faults, but I still find it entertaining. I don't know why.
It's entertaining in a different way. It's
I guess
still
true.
something. It's just not what I originally wanted it to be. But
Right.
it's okay.
So yeah, now we're at the half point of the podcast, so that means it's time for a commercial break. So check out these messages from some of our friends who also podcast, and we'll be back.
And here's another tasty morsel from the Trash Pandas Watch Anime podcast.
Some fan service.
Yeah. I mean, it worked pretty well in Dragon Ball. Do you remember those scenes with Bulma?
Bulma was running around in a bunny outfit for the longest time.
I know. Akira Toriyama.
We can get the Dragon Balls, and then we can make our wish. Bulma's panties.
Did Oolong wish for Bulma's panties, or did you just wish for a pair of panties?
I think it was just a pair of panties. I'm sure it's different in the Japanese than it is in the English dub. But yeah, he just wished for panties. They're probably used.
As always, you can find us on Facebook and on Twitter at Trash Panda Anime. You can find us on our website, tpwapodcast.com. You can also find us on assorted sites like SoundCloud, Stitcher, and iTunes.
Hey Colin, did you get the cardboard cutout of Consul Kev?
Did I ever? It's amazing.
Oh, I think so too. I hate that guy. Kevin, what are you doing here?
Oh, just eavesdropping on all the, the bad things you say about me. My usual Wednesday.
Oh, well, did you at least prepare for the Retro Gaming Podcast?
Absolutely not.
Oh, God, that figures. Alright, it's okay. I'll take it from here. Basically, we pick a theme every time, and we pick a number of games based on that theme. Just like our first episode where it lasted forever and we talked about space games.
Yeah, and other good, all the mainstream systems and games you love, like the 3DO, the Atari Jaguar.
Oh, come on. Colin, you back me up here. The 3DO is awesome, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought we were friends. I mean, it's cool. Alright.
If you want to hear three guys talk about games that are bad because JD picked them all, and good games that Kevin picked, join us.
Who here wants to see a bunch of nerds talking video games with a little bit of anime thrown in there? Nobody? Just me? Damn!
Well, speaking of anime, Colin, we have an anime cast as well.
Yes, we do. All retro anime. Many of which I have never heard of myself. And I'm a weeb!
Very similar premise there. We pick a retro anime, at least 15 years or older, and we review it every episode. We also keep up on all the modern stuff, all the seasonal things from the year. Hey, Kevin, you just got back into wrestling, right?
I did.
Oh my god, did you know we also have a wrestling cast that just started?
I do now, because nobody tells me anything.
Ah, well, what do you think of the big dog these days?
He still sucks.
Well, that's good. Well, luckily, we just don't complain about WWE stuff. We also talk about a lot of the latest and greatest from the rising indie scene, New Japan, and Ring of Honor.
I like rings and honor.
Well, you should definitely listen to the Red Leaf Retrocast. We have such a wide range of topics, ideas to discuss, and just anything to review. It's fantastic, don't you guys think so?
It's alright!
Absolutely. And thanks again for the Sailor Moon episode. That's got me a lifetime supply of salt for my fries. From the fans. Ha!
That's the Red Leaf Retrocast. All things gaming, anime, and wrestling, found on all your favorite podcasting websites.
Hey, do you like wrestling?
Whether it be in a bar, an arena, some weird place in Asia, or in a stadium?
Or the occasional penis plex?
Well, if any of these things might tickle your fancy, anywhere in between from penises to wrestling, you can come and check out our podcast.
Our podcast name is Smack It Down. We talk all things WWE, New Japan, anything else in between.
I'm Jay Silver.
I'm Corey Gold.
And we look forward to you joining us.
Happy Rusev Day.
Happy Rusev Day indeed.
Alright, continuing on with the second half, we've got Hisone to Masotan, episode 9, called...
Oh god, because that's the fucking noise she makes. I thought my ears were gonna split open. I wanted to hit her over the head. Go ahead, Bcom.
So funny.
Oh.
Okay, so this episode like immediately establishes that Natsume, who's one of those group of like shrine Mikos who have shown up, is in love with Haru, and now there's like a tense love triangle between Hisone and Haru and her that we all knew was coming at the end of the last episode.
Of course.
So also, like, the Joie lady, or, like, we know she's the old D-pilot now, Hinomoto-san, is worried about something called anastomosis, which we'll learn about at the end of the episode. And Haru is worried about it, too, for, like, the D-pilots. So Natsume follows Hisone around all day, just grilling her on, like, various, like, unfeminine life choices that she makes, like eating really garlicky, like, Viet Cong ramen is what they call it, which is kind of crazy at lunch.
I honestly find Hisone de Masotan actually funny more of the time than anything else.
Yeah.
Like, Cat hates the E thing, but that's probably where I laughed the most.
It has its moments where it's pretty funny.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate it all the time. So.
Yeah, like, so Hisone's like, why are you being so harsh with me, like, all day long? And then, like, she kind of bonds with Natsume because Natsume's like, well, I just say whatever the hell's on my mind, and I have no filter. And Hisone's like, oh, that's kind of like me. Like, the only difference is, like, Natsume is just, like, an arrogant bitch all the time, too, so it doesn't, like, help at things at all. So yeah, the other pilots tell her, like, she can't just keep taking all this abuse from Natsume all day, though. Like, can't just let her, like, walk all over her. And, like, if Natsume finds out how close she actually is with Haru, she's gonna lose her shit even more. But Hisone's like, I'm close with Haru, guys? Really? She's, like, really, like, just surprised to know that this is the case. They're like, yeah, like, and, like, now it's like, I never went to a movie with you, so yeah. So as Sato is watching, like, Sato is the older lady, Hinomoto, watches, like, the Mikos practice their routine. She sees these visions of the chosen Miko, which was called, the essentially subs chose to call this, like, a bindin or a bindin, which is, I guess, a contraction of the kanji for a bind and maiden. So it's like a shrine Miko, like a maiden who is bound to do something, basically. So bindin, I guess, is what they're called. So she's seen visions of the one that she remembers from back in her day, and then, like, the guy Iboshi sort of hints that one of these Miko is going to be chosen, and he basically hints that it's sort of like a sacrifice to go along with this ritual. Like, I don't think this is going to end well for whoever is chosen to be this Miko. So we get a scene where Eru sees Zaito taking a selfie with one of, like, these high school Miko girls, and she, like, storms off because she's upset, and he runs after her, right, so she doesn't get the wrong idea. But then, like, they accidentally anime fall down the stairs together into the wall push.
Oh,
where an accidental kiss may or may not have happened.
What a combo.
Yeah, what a combo. And she, like, slaps the shit out of him, but at this point, like, it's so clear that this relationship is happening. Like, when she runs away, she's like, I can't believe I'm blushing so much. Like, she's totally into him now after all of the crazy setup, like as we knew was coming.
There's this, like, comment that one of the Mikos makes where she's like, we can have boyfriends, only the, like, pilots can't have boyfriends. And I was just like, what the fuck is this? Like, what are they even setting up? Like, this is terrible.
Yeah. It's like our theory, like, from the past episode where it's like,
it's so blatant and ridiculous. I don't know.
Yeah.
Natsume goes looking to flirt with Haru-kun in the hangar after this, but instead finds, like, Hisone, like, sleeping against Masotan. But what she notices that, like, triggers her is that Hisone has the same, like, stupid zombie cell phone strap that Haru does. And so she puts two and two together and realizes, like, they're closer than she realized. And, like, Hisone tries to, like, save the day. Like, she, like, wakes up and runs after her by explaining that she only came to the hangar to lick Masotan. She had no intention whatsoever of licking Haru's face. And she, like, thinks that this is, like, a thing that will work. Like, she thinks this, like, reasoning will work. I thought that was really funny. But Natsume tells her, like, hey, if you're such a straight shooter about everything, then just admit that you're in love with Haru, too. She's like, I'm not in love with him. I just love these 15 little things about him. And Natsume's like, yeah, that's what we call love. And Hisone, they do like a really slow pullback and then like a push in on her face, and then her face goes all red and it explodes like a train whistle, and then she like screams like
a train whistle, like a fucking train whistle. Oh my god,
I loved it.
Oh, that
it's
noise!
Like the screaming was ridiculous.
It was terrible.
I want to see video of that recording session, though. I would love to see the voice actors in the booth, like, making those noises.
I totally agree. That'd be awesome.
It probably hurt her throat.
In the final scene of the episode, they're about to start another training exercise when the show takes a note of a Darling in the FranXX playbook. And inside of the OTFs, the dragons, like, Hisone and Eru's suits start melting away, just like in Darling in the FranXX when, like, they got, like, attacked by acid. And so it was like the exact same imagery. I was like really like laughing my ass off. And then Masotan and Norma, who are the ones who were like melting them, they like both like violently recoil. Their eyes have like turned red, and they like throw up both of the girls like violently.
They turn like spirally and red. Like, I don't know. That's a weird.
Yeah, spirally weird.
Yeah.
And so we learned this is the anastomosis that they were worried about, which is once you've become like aligned enough with your OTF, if you then fall in love, they will like reject you completely, because you're supposed to only love the OTF and have like no eyes for anything else. And so, yeah, like they're basically being like rejected violently by like the gastric juices of their stomachs that are like acidically eating away at their suits and killing them. So, yeah, that's a roadblock for them to get past.
This show's dark, dude.
It's pretty dark.
Breaking people's hearts and shit. I'm like, what the fuck?
By the end of next episode, I see what they're trying to do, but at the same time, it's pretty damn dark and like a weird, very blatant metaphor for what they're actually trying to get at.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Should I go into the next episode or anything else to say about that one?
No, you can go ahead.
Nope. Go.
So episode 10 called Melting in Love, following up on that scene. This episode starts off with like a ceremony where the chosen Miko is selected, though they don't say whose name it was at first, though I think we can all assume it's Natsume. And then there's a lot of talk about how they didn't see this whole falling in love thing causing the D-pilots to be incapable of flying thing like coming just a few weeks before the ritual. It's a big problem. Eru confronts Hisone, Hisone really still hasn't like accepted her feelings. Like, despite running around screaming, she hasn't still accepted that like she's in love with Haru.
Well, I think one of the points they make is that she's the one that's aware and the other girl isn't.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Eru is very aware. Yeah. Of like, I have these feelings for Saito.
No.
I wish. Oh wait.
Hisone is the one that was aware.
No,
Eru was the one who wasn't admitting it.
Hisone is the one who's not aware. Eru is the one who knows that she does have feelings for Saito. She just hates that she does.
But Hisone says that she loves what's his face, and Eru is just like denying it.
Well, but Eru is denying it because she knows it's true. Whereas Hisone is still confused emotionally.
But she literally
not denying
runs
it. She's
around.
saying like, I have these feelings. I wish I could gouge them out of my chest. Like, that's what she says.
I think at one point, but not up here. But Hisone was the one who was screaming and running around because she's like, oh my God, I love him. So she's aware.
That's why I thought it was a weird turnaround when they were like, oh no, she still hasn't like quite figured out her feelings. Like, this whole episode is like how her figuring it out.
It takes some time to settle and like accept it.
Yeah.
Like, I get what they're doing. Yeah.
Anyway. Eru, like, I think she knows, like, very well that, like, she has these feelings now for Saito. She just hates that she does.
Yeah, well, what I'm saying is she knows, like, she just doesn't, she doesn't like it. So she just keeps, Yeah.
So, like, after this, Hisone goes to the hangar and kind of cries and apologizes to Masotan. but like tells him like I can't even begin to understand why me falling in love makes it impossible to fly with you. And it's kind of funny because it's like it is a ridiculous premise of the show. And now is like with her, and now then has like a self-reflective moment where she goes to talk to like the fashion, like the uniform designer guy, and she's like, maybe I'm not cut out to be a D pilot. Like I just followed in my mother's footsteps like obediently. But like I do feel like I've come to understand Masotan really well in like helping him and like doing maintenance on him all this time. I won't ever understand him as well as Hisone does, but like I still feel like I do understand him. And after this point, this is where Zaito goes and decides to like nobly take one for the team. He decides to be a complete asshole to Eru because he thinks it's going to help him. Like help her move past her like love for him and get her back on track. He basically tells her like, I only hit on you because you had a rockin' bod and I didn't think you'd get so attached to me and we could still be fuck buddies if you want.
Oh yeah, fuck buddies.
I love that Senshi like translated this as fuck buddies. I'm very curious to see what like the official subs translate that as when it comes out because I doubt they'll go as far as fuck buddies.
But I will say this. If it isn't fuck buddies, I bet you it's not as good as fuck buddies.
This is definitely going to be the superior translation, 100%.
Yeah.
So the show kind of piles it on, like after that, because like they show Zaito's face after that, and you can see that he clearly like did that for a reason. But then they just explain it outright, and I think it was kind of unnecessary for him to do that. But they say like, oh no, he was ordered by the commanders to like go do this and tell this to Eru so she can like snap out of it or like fall out of love with him. So Hinamoto-san comes by and reinforces everything, saying that she was in love once, but the world and its mechanisms betrayed her. And she decided to only put her trust in her OTF because the OTF will never betray you. And Eru hears all this, even though she's gotten like super drunk at this point that night. And like, she's like, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be only loyal to Norma, my OTF, and sacrifice my love life for my career, basically. And so Hisone, however, can't completely accept what they are saying. Like, she thinks they have a good point, but it also is like, I'm not accepting this fully. And then Natsume confirms, like, she's been made, like, the chosen Binden Shrine Miko and asks Haru to kiss her because, like, when she was in 5th grade, he had promised her that he would do any one thing that she asked if she was made the chosen Miko. They grew up together in this like town that was like all about serving like the crazy dragon thing that's coming back, like the Dragon Island. And like, so like she had been raised from birth to be like a Miko and he had been raised to be like a priest or whatever. And yeah, so she's like, you need to kiss me because that's the one wish I have. And instead of kissing her, he like blows his tobacco breath on her face. We learn later this is because like he had known her literally since like she was a baby, and like her mother had always said like the way to calm her down was to like blow on her nose and it would stop her from crying. It was kind of like a sweet thing to do.
But it also sees why he doesn't find her attractive because he's known her since she's a baby.
She like sees her as a baby, probably as like a little sister. Yeah,
he does say that.
Confesses. Wait, what?
He does say he sees her as a little sister. That's what he tells Hisone.
Oh,
yeah,
makes sense.
Yep.
Hisone confesses her love to Haru after this in front of Masotan, like right in the hangar. And then she instantly runs off because she's like, I think I almost have all the pieces together in my head. I just need to keep figuring this out. And leaves him there. And then Eru is granted permission to fly with Norma because she goes to the leader, like the commanders, the brass, and is like, I'm not thinking about love anymore. I'm just going to concentrate on flying the OTF. And they're like, okay. And Hisone sees all the OTFs take off, like all the other D pilots, and then also Masotan, who is being piloted by Now. And like Itsushima, who's like the fashion guy, shows up. And
it's really funny because when she's piloting Masotan, I don't know if you would call that piloting.
It was pretty bad. It's like wobbling back and forth.
She's like going forwards and backwards and left and right. It looks like the graphics went wrong in your video game or something.
So Itsushima basically convinced Now that like all the support the staff and like the maintenance crew give like the pilots, it's basically like they're up there piloting the jets along with them because like they would never fly if it wasn't for everybody's help. So now kind of like took that message to heart. And even though she doesn't feel like she can be a D pilot, she feels like she can do this much. She can like help Masotan, who needs to like dissipate some extra heat because she can't fly right now. So that's what they're doing. And so, like, when Hisone learns this, like, lesson, she, like, runs back to the hangar where all the commanders, like, Hosoda and Kakiyasu are, and they're talking with Nao and Haru, who has landed at that point. And she just blurts out, like, I've come to a decision. I understand everything now. It's really simple. I'm just going to quit depiloting and the Air Force entirely. And that's where the episode ends.
That's the cliffhanger right there.
Dun, dun, dun.
But yeah, okay. Like I was saying, I get where the show is trying to do with this anastomosis thing. Basically, it is just like the physical embodiment of like women in like the Japanese workplace are kind of up against. Like falling in love is like a death sentence for your career in Japan if you're a woman, because it means probably having children, which means time away from work, which means probably not getting promoted, and like staying home with your kid. Most likely, that's an expectation. And like the show has kind of just gone and made this like a much more blatant metaphor where like they fall in love and then their like career rejects them, like they're flying this dragon just like rejects them physically, like throwing them out. And yeah, I think it's like a pretty like hammer hitting the nail on the head like metaphor. It's like a little obvious, but it's like, okay, I at least get what they're trying to say.
Wow.
So
they still have better maternity leave than we do. They're guaranteed a time off of 8 weeks after giving birth, but they could return in 6 weeks if their doctor approves. Japan also has childcare leave, which applies to both parents. This period begins after the guaranteed maternity leave mentioned earlier and runs until a child reaches the age of 1. So, wow.
Well, the
Leo,
U.S.
I never said that the United States wasn't like a burning hellhole.
I'm saying the U.S. basically has no maternity policy. Like, it really doesn't.
You to actually have one is probably company policy. Actually, my company that I work for now just let both parents take off for maternity leave. But I think the male only gets 4 weeks.
Well, but like a lot of companies will say that they will allow the male to take paternity leave, but then if you take it, there's a lot of resentment. So, you know. I don't know.
Which I hope is changing with time, because like having a kid is such like a traumatic event in your life. It's a great thing, but it's also really traumatic and like upheaves your entire life. And so like people really need that time to like reacclimate.
I'll say in defense of the company I work for, they are very pro LBGT and like very openly endorsed it. I think what was a year or two ago when it was like really top of the news. Nobody was talking about Trump yet. So I will say they have at least that going for them.
Okay.
Yep. I just remember like one of my bosses, like he had a kid and he took his paternity leave for 2 weeks and they called it his vacation. And I was just thinking in my head, like, I mean, it's not a vacation.
Yeah. Do you people not know what it's like to raise a child?
Yeah.
He was probably sitting at home going, I wish I was at work right now.
Yeah.
as he was changing the third poopy diaper that day.
Yeah.
Getting pissed on.
Yeah. Stuff like that.
Yep.
So anyway, that's Hisone to Masotan, which is, I don't know. It's still doing okay-ish. But yeah.
Okay, let's talk about punching stuff.
Yeah, here we go.
That's Kat's territory.
All
Tell me
right.
about punching stuff.
Okay, episode 9 of Megalo Box. I'm like excited. I'm like, yes, punching things. Okay. A dead flower will never bloom. Okay, so the episode starts with the beginning of the fight between Miko and Joe. So Joe is immediately on the defensive, and it's really not going well for him, like, from the beginning. I don't know. Like, even though he's not wearing his gear, Miko's gear is able to read his movements, unlike what they thought would happen before. And I feel like the same dynamic happened at the beginning of the fight with Aragaki, where like from the beginning he's on the defensive and things aren't going well. And it just kind of feels like the same thing. I don't know. Joe tries to hold his own, but it's not going well. At one point, he kind of imagines the trainer in the ring with him instead of Miko in order to get like what they practice just right. And it's a great little bit of animation, in my opinion.
I love that. It was like a 360 behind like Mikio's back, right? And then you see like he swaps bodies with like Nanbu, and it's like he's punching like the the practice like punching bags and stuff. Like that was a really nice bit of animation.
Yeah, it was really good. And at one point, Miko says to him, like, "You people and your little bag of tricks." And I couldn't tell if he's being classist or like racist or maybe a little bit of both. Like, I don't really know what he means by "you people," but he obviously means something. But anyway,
I definitely assumed classist. Yeah, like just like you poor people.
Yeah, but in any case, it's clear he has a chip on his shoulder about something. And then during the break between rounds, you see that Miko is asking his team how long it will be until he gets to peak synchronization. And then Yuri explains in the stands that synchronization with the AI is a burden both physically and mentally. And the closer he gets to 100%, it's like it will be better in terms of performance, but it will get harder on Miko. However, they don't really explain like how it's a burden, just that like it is, which is kind of irritating because you're like, well, what's happening? Like, why is it a burden? What is actually happening? And they just are very vague.
Yeah, I guess it's just taxing his stamina, basically. Yeah,
I guess. Yukiko says that this is the limit of Miko's gear, that the burden it places on him to use the AI is too great, and that like no normal person could use it. And so it's not useful in a business sense. And he can't see that, and that's why he can't run the company. So, like, in the third round, you see that Miko is getting closer to 100% synchronization, and it really does start to mess with him, and you can see, like, it's taxing on him, and it's wearing him down. And you see in this little flashback scene, you see him, like, testing it and, like, trying to get up to 100% synchronization, and it's clear, like, it's going to be the opportunity that Joe needs. Like, this taxing him. So we get another flashback of Miko practicing against his own gear, and Miko shouts out like, "Ace is me." And then in the flashback, he's like looking at the gear, and he's like, "Who are you?" And I didn't really get like what they were trying to say. Like, I couldn't decide if the anime was trying to say that Miko based the AI on himself, and so it is like a part of him, or if he's saying that like he's used the AI so much that he thinks of it as a part of himself. It's kind of unclear. But like
to me, it was like that he's denying that. He's kind of in denial because like the AI is really doing a lot of stuff for him.
Yes.
But he wants to get all the credit for it himself. So like when people are like, "Oh, your gear's doing everything for you," he's like, "No, it's me. And then like that kind of falls apart over the course of the episode, I feel like.
I guess,
my thought was like he's cheating by using AI.
Well, kind of.
A bit, yeah.
But like, I mean, you could say that, like you could say people are cheating by using calculators too, but we don't. Like, it's a hard line to make, you know.
Well, the difference being the boxing is a competition. So outside a competition, I don't see a problem with it. Like if you're doing a math competition, you don't get to use calculators.
Well, but I mean, a test is a competition between people to get a high score.
Yeah, but you don't get to use calculators on tests.
You do.
Well, some tests you do. Depends on the test.
Now you do.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yep, not for me. Sorry. Can't use calculators.
Well, when you get upper into math, you do. But anyway,
and it's like when the teacher said, "Why would you use calculators all the time? It's not like you're going to carry around in your pocket all the time." Well, I guess. Well, now I do. So
she did not know cell phones were a thing that was coming, I guess.
Yeah. I'm old people.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, so you find out at this point that Yuri used to work with Miko, and then he switched to like the sisters' gear because he felt like he needed to have control over his own body to win in the fights. And this really upset Miko because he kind of felt like Yuri betrayed him. Back in the ring, Miko is obviously really upset at this point, but he's still winning, like in all actuality, even though he's kind of going downhill. He clocks Joe like just over and over again. But then at this point in the fight, like Joe kind of seems to get this idea because it seems like Shirato is like so synchronized with the AI that he can't move without it independently anymore. So Joe just stops putting his guard up, and this confuses the AI because it's not something that the AI has ever had to see before, because boxers usually have their hands up and like protect themselves. So you see Miko kind of just fighting against the AI at this point and hesitating and like not really knowing what to do. And
I think that was the AI hesitating
Well,
and not
so-
allowing him to punch him.
yeah, like the AI is
It's
the
like
one
a battle
hesitating, not
mentally.
him. And like, but like Miko is not quite sure what to do either, because like he's not used to the AI failing. So both of them are kind of.
And you can just tell he's getting pissed because he's getting embarrassed right now.
Yeah.
Because like the other boxer is like got his guard completely down and he can't do anything.
Yeah.
And
But yeah, Miko realizes at this point that if he hadn't been using AI, like he would have already beat Joe. And he wonders if the AI made a mistake, and then he starts to question it and then question himself as well. The not putting his guard up thing is working for Joe, but like Miko just keeps punching him like straight in the face, and like there's nothing like protecting his face, and so it's just brutal. He's just getting fucking pummeled. But I guess Joe takes this opportunity in the end and like counters and just hits Miko like real hard straight in the jaw. And he also gets hit at the same time by Miko in return, but Joe stays up while Miko goes down in a KO. And I guess we're supposed to believe that because the AI took such a toll on Miko, like he stayed down and it was like easy, that was something that could have happened. For me personally, like Miko did not take a lot of damage in that fight. Like, there's no reason why he should have just gone down, like, with one punch like that, especially after all the shit that Joe went through.
Depending on where the punch lands, it can be.
I don't know.
Yeah, like sometimes a punch just hits you in the right way.
It seems very convenient.
But I agree with you. Like, Joe was getting destroyed this whole fight and just kept
Joe
getting
got
back
destroyed.
up.
Yes.
But that's like a boxing trope. That's like a Rocky Balboa, like, trope as
I
well.
know.
So,
I just want them to show me something different. But okay, so
Right.
after the fight, Miko and Yuri are talking. Okay, Shiraito and Yuri, sorry. Like the sister. I think her name, I always forget her name. It is Yukiko.
Well, her last name is Shirato.
Well, her last name is the
Yukiko.
same.
Yeah.
And so, it's
the same.
Yeah.
It's the brother. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Mikio
Yukiko.
and Yukiko.
So, after the fight,
Lost your place.
I know I did.
That's okay.
After the fight, Yukiko and Yuri are talking about how Yukiko still wonders sometimes if she should have just let her brother run the company, even though she is the one who got picked to run the company, because it meant so much more to him. But then Yuri tells her like she can't have regrets like that, and he kind of chose to go his own way instead of supporting her and the company when she was picked. And like that's on him, kind of, not on her. And Yukiko tells Yuri that he must prove in the final match that like her gear is superior and the best gear. And then they have like a little confrontation between Joe and Yuri, and he's like, "I'm in your ring finally, bitch! Like here we go!" And it's all very macho. Later that night, everyone has a party on the boat to celebrate that Joe beat the fuck out of his opponent. And Joe's the only one not there because he's upstairs trying to sleep because he got all fucked up. And then at the very end, Fujimaki comes over, and like it's clear something's going on between the trainer and Fujimaki, and the trainer tells Fujimaki like, "I haven't told Joe yet. You need to go home so I can tell him." And Fujimaki says this like really cryptic reply at the end, which I felt like it was just way too cryptic. He's like, "You aren't the only scorpion that wants to close his eyes to his true nature because he's been poisoned by the venom of dreams. But the ride stops here." And I'm like, I mean, we all saw this coming, kind of. It's another round of like rigged fight bullshit, but like, I don't know if they needed that line.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was interesting that like completely dropping his guard would be the only way to beat this like super AI gear. That makes sense, but like the way that Joe just like keeps taking a pummeling every fight, and these fights are kind of like close together now at this point. Like he's still going to be injured for like whenever he fights in Megalo Box.
The show also makes a point to say that he's still pissing blood too. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then like there was that part where like Mikio started getting up to like past 90% synchronization. Like it was kind of weird because like it seemed like he was sort of losing control at this point, but like that seemed to be what the gear wanted. Like the gear wanted to be more aggressive, I guess. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. It just didn't make sense to me at first, but then I guess it kind of made sense later. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's all I got. Did you? For whatever reason, probably because it's in the boxing ring, it made me remember Celebrity Deathmatch. You guys ever watch out on MTV?
Nice.
I haven't thought of that in a long time. I love that show.
I would love to see a remake come back.
I don't know if it would like hold up because like I loved that when I was like in middle school and I was like the perfect age for it, but I don't know if it would hold up now.
So is this actual celebrities like socking each other in the face? Is that what this is?
No, it was claymation celebrities.
Oh.
It was hilarious.
It was pretty awesome. Like if they remade it, the final would be like Donald Trump and
I'm just saying it would be more
Mexicans.
fun if they paid like Britney Spears and like who else was popular in that area? Like
I'm pretty sure
Hillary
Britney
Duff,
Spears
Christina
was in
Aguilera,
one.
probably
Christina
fought Britney
Aguilera
Spears.
or like
Yeah.
Hillary Duff, like make them fight it out, like just see who wins. That would have been more entertaining. But
Yeah. It just made me think about that. Now I want to like really look up all the matches were because it was. I know she went up against somebody, but okay.
All
Let's
right, Leo,
go
tell
back
us
to
about episode 10.
Yeah,
Yes.
episode 10. The dice cast. Fujimaki, in an earlier conversation with Nambu, made him swear to throw the first match at Megalonia like the scumbag he is. Of course, Joe does not take this new information well. Fujimaki also suggests to Nambu that he will kill Seichi also if he doesn't follow through. There's also
Sachio, you mean? Sachio.
Seichi. I said Seichi. Sachio. Sachio. What?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Why did I type that wrong? My bad.
Lots of names to remember. It's fine.
yeah.
Oh, God. And they're in a different language. Also, there's a press conference that is held and Joe doesn't show up to it. And his contender, Burroughs, basically just mocks him for it. He's like, I have to drag that dog to the ring or something like that.
Yeah, put a collar on him. Drag him in.
Yeah, Nambu decides to do some good. And he ends up tracking down an engineer that used to work for Mikio on that gear he uses. But this engineer had a falling out when he was like selling parts they were stealing from the shop to, for his gambling and stuff like that. And what we find out is that Sachio's dad was basically the creator of that system. And may have been killed by Mikio, who stole it from him. Nambu ends up taking Saichi to Yukio, so he will be protected. He convinces her to take him in after he explains about what happened to his parents and the corruption he uncovered in her business. She later on has her assistant confirm that this is all true, and she wants her to track down everybody involved and be taken care of. Pepe and Yuri have their match, and like they both get their own like intros as they're coming into it.
Those intros were awesome.
Oh,
too.
the Pepe intro was badass.
It was so good. Like the spider like mask and then like the skull like being carried behind him. Like that was great.
That was good.
Yeah.
And I loved like the slogans that they both had. Like Yuri was like the king of kings or something. I was like, oh, this is such a boxing match thing. This is so realistic.
It kind of perked up again at that point. I was like, ooh, yes.
Well, the match is, pretty normal. It's nothing big going on. And then until Yuri's like, all right, I'm going to get serious. And then he just fucks him up with a 1-2 punch. Match over.
I feel like that's an unfortunate side effect of the length of this anime because like I really liked the way that this Pepe guy fought, like this like long arm like spider technique, like coming from different angles and like wearing you down, but like the show doesn't have enough time to like give this like a really good fight at this point.
Yeah.
So it has to kind of just end in a couple punches.
I've said over and over, they
too bad.
should have made this anime a 24 episode anime. It would have been so much better. Well.
Yeah. So, also there's a high-ranked military officer there watching the event. So it makes me wonder if this gear may be possibly used or translated into military use.
Most likely, yeah.
They didn't say anything about it, but they made a point of showing this guy in military uniform. So what the heck's up with that?
Well, see, that's good, though, because like I said in an earlier episode, like I always wondered what they were going to do with these gears, because you can't have them just for sporting. Like, there has to be some other use for them. So,
yeah, true.
Interesting.
Yeah. So afterwards, Joe and Yuri like meet randomly later on. They just random, and they talk about why they each got into the ring. Joe does it basically because he likes a thrill, and Yuri does it because he feels like he owes a great debt to Yukio, who like brought him up whenever he was like really down in the dumps or something. They didn't say what it was about, but that's just also Yuri's dog likes Joe, and that's strange.
I like how they kind of have like a bonding moment. It like humanizes both of them a little bit before the eventual final fight that we're going to see, I'm sure.
I did like that.
And like, yeah, like, okay, like I said, like, yeah, this show doesn't really have the time to go like in depth on boxing matches. And so that's disappointed a lot of people. But I feel like the show is doing, like, to a fair extent, like the other thing it's set out to do, which is to tell a story about like people who are being oppressed by like a rich class that is like capitalist and is just pushing them down. And like Joe is like the expression of like all of their hopes, like going against like these like literal like robot people and like trying to like hold his best with like just his fists. And I think like that was expressed like even more clearly this episode with like everything about Mikio and like Sachio's father, who was like killed and had his designs stolen from him. So yeah, I mean, at least it's doing that stuff pretty well. I feel like that storyline, if not the boxing. So.
Yeah, I liked how you wrote this comment, Bcom, about how fucking hardcore is Nambu, that he literally hands Sachio a knife. But like I feel like what Nambu's trying to do is be like, don't be like me. You have to either get your own revenge or like not get it and move on. Like, don't use other people to get what you want, because that's what Nambu does like all of the time. And so I think what he's kind of trying to do is be like, Sachio, you're not going to be like me. You're going to do it yourself or it's not going to get done.
Yeah,
like, I don't know.
That's a fair lesson to teach a kid. It's pretty badass to just hand this fucking kid like a Crocodile Dundee knife and be like, go kill that bitch who killed your dad. And then, you know, he decides not to in the end, because he sees those two little kids standing next to her and he's like, I can't do this to somebody just like myself. So yeah, that was a nice like humanizing moment as well.
It was good. Yep.
It's a good show, except the last episode's out, and I'm hearing bad stuff about it. I'm not going to talk about it.
Last episode's not out yet. 13 is still coming.
Oh, 13's still going? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll see how it goes. I'm excited for the end. I'm curious to see how they wrap things up, for sure.
Yeah. But we can talk about some love and romance, because we haven't done that yet this episode.
Yeah.
Yes.
Here we go.
Wotakoi loves hard for Otaku.
Well, except for, I guess, Steins Gate. But that was more like a forced stalking.
That's like a limp-wristed romance.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the real deal.
So, yeah, episode 9 of Wotakoi is called Go Out on a Date with Me. And like we expected, Narumi and Hirataka are out on that date at a theme park. And it starts off with like Narumi buying some limited edition churros, and she gives one of them to Hirataka. But he like it kind of reads her like a book. He's like, what's the real reason you bought 2 of these? And she gets animated with like a face out of the anime Kaiji, which is about the gambling guy. And she's like, well, I wanted both, so I doubled down. And he makes her put money into like a piggy jar that they've brought with them to the theme park. That's like anytime they make like an otaku remark or something, they have to put money in the otaku piggy jar. And then she protests about this, and like when she's protesting, they just like have her in a JoJo art style. Like, no, it was pretty funny.
It was,
but she has to pay even more.
Yeah.
But yeah, so as the date goes on, they basically each get in trouble for doing otaku things and talking about otaku stuff too much. And like, she's like pointing cute guys out in line ahead of them, and he's like, put the money in the jar. And she's like, no, wait. He's like, no, anything related to being a yaoi fangirl, put money in the jar.
That's a totally good rule. I would say so.
But it is also valid that she makes him put money in the jar for playing Pokemon Go, because he like tries to fight that shit.
Yeah.
I love that, because he's like, well, non-otaku play Pokemon Go, and then Narumi just like shuts that down. She's like, nope, only otaku are still playing that game.
Yeah, they're still playing. I was like, oh man, that's a little real life there.
That was funny. Yeah, but like after a certain point, it turns out like they realize they have literally nothing to talk about when they restrict all the otaku related topics. Like they want to talk about last night's anime, and they both realize they can't. But yeah, they wind up in a haunted house, as you inevitably do in an anime when you're at a theme park. And they go on like this ride, and like Narumi starts to get really spooked, right? And she starts like pushing who she thinks is Hirotaka towards the ride and like forcing him to get in really quick. But it turns out it's randomly Kabakura who she's been pushing, and he's there too. And then like right in the car behind them, like Hirotaka sees that like, oh, Hanako's here too, and like they ride together. So it turns out they're all at the theme park as well. Like Hanako got jealous basically hearing that Narumi was going with Hirotaka, and like begged Kabakura to take her. And then yeah, Hirotaka tells Hanako that like, yeah, things between me and Narumi are like the same as always, and he's kind of depressed about it. Like things have not moved forward for them at all. But like, meanwhile, Kabakura and Narumi are like freaking out in the ride ahead of them. Like
that was so cute. Oh my gosh.
But it was funny, like, Narumi has her arms crossed, and, like, Kabakura notices this, and he's like, you don't have to, like, cross your arms. Like, what is that about? And she, like, has an inner monologue where she's like, well, if I don't cross my arms, I might accidentally hold Kabakura's hand, and that would be, like, cheating on Hirotaka, is basically how she, like, explains it.
Need to go back real quick. The part where you said they're there because Hanako got jealous. Well, there's a whole monologue there where she says that and then something else, but then she's like, actually, we were walking by and we saw you guys going and we were just curious.
Oh, well, yeah.
That's why they were there.
yeah, that's true. Yeah,
they were just kind of creeping on them, just wondering what's going on. That's pretty funny.
Yeah. And, like, I also liked how Hanako and him were, like, not scared of this ride whatsoever. Like, in, like, blatant contrast to the other two.
Yeah.
So Hanako, like, meanwhile, like, reassures Hirotaka that it's okay for him and Narumi to take their relationship slow, and, like, that's fine. But she also says, like, I'm getting really impatient waiting for you, so can you please at least try to kiss her on the way home? And so Hirotaka follows up on all this, like, later after they all leave, and he's, like, trying to, like, hold Narumi's hand as they're walking back, but, like, she turns just as he's going in for it, and so he, like, pretends he's rubbing his neck or something. And then he then has this inner monologue about how Narumi has had all of these life experiences that he hasn't had. He explains it's like, while I was leveling up at video games, she was like leveling up at life, basically, like going through breakups and like meeting people and getting crushed and like trying hard. And he kind of like visualizes himself as like the child version of himself, like walking behind like an adult Narumi, and he feels pretty insecure about it. Then they stop because it turns out his feet hurt like crazy from walking all over the theme park. And so they go take a break on a bench, and he wonders if Narumi enjoys like even being with him. And like when he wonders this, like exactly at that moment, she blurts out like, "It won't work for us. Let's end it." Yeah. And which was funny, but like I knew it was obviously going to be about the piggy jar. Like clearly the otaku piggy jar does not work because like they have nothing else to talk about. So that's what she's talking about, like ending that policy.
I thought it was a good policy because it'll teach them to like have other things in their relationship besides.
I guess that's true. Like it's a good like thought exercise.
I think it has
something else.
Good pros and cons. Mm-hmm. So it's somewhere around the middle for me, I would say.
Hirotaka almost has a heart attack though because he thought she was like actually breaking up with him for a second.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then in the end, like Narumi has a gift for Hirotaka, and it's like these earrings. And she says like, I wanted to give these to you because I wanted to see that part of you that wanted to grow up fast like you did when you were younger, even though you're an adult now. And it turns out like she actually has like a matching pair because like it's just like the churros. She wanted both like because they had 2 colors.
Yep.
So she decided to give like one color to him and wear the others herself. And they're like clip-on earrings because she doesn't want to pierce her ears either. And like he goes in like after all this for what looks like an obvious kiss, which ends up as a hug.
Yeah.
Which is like, oh, we've already kissed at this point. Just kiss. Like, what are you doing? But
Yeah,
anyway, like
that
Hirotaka feels
scene from before where Hanako is like, "You can go at your own pace." I'm like, "No, you should fucking kiss."
Like, pick up the damn pace, please. Yeah.
No, I'm just imagining
so,
like as the world ends in the future, and it's like millions of years later, finally they kiss.
They're like skeletons.
That was their pace.
Hands.
That's a problem with a lot of the anime. Really, is
I
the
know.
slow pace.
I know.
It's just too slow for Americans, I think.
Maybe.
And Hirotaka like reinforces it at the end of the episode where he's like, things have changed between us a little bit, even if it is very slowly. It's just like, oh my god, why are you going so slowly? There's no point to it. Like I know it's like, you know, different strokes for different folks, but like, man, it's slow.
So I thought the date was pretty good. That was awesome, but just to go on what we're talking about, I still think the progression of the relationship is a little on the slow side. But I guess that isn't necessarily a bad thing. It just makes it less believable for me.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So that's the only thing I really got to say about that. I mean, it may be good, maybe not, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Tell us about episode 10 then.
Okay. Introducing Koei-kun and Online Gaming Revenge. I hated this stupid episode.
It was so dumb.
So, yeah, which is why my synopsis is so short, because I'm like, nobody wants to watch this. So the first part is about now stalking some guy that looks and acts a lot like his brother, and it's just a complete Fujoshi bait. You think at first. But after Nao finally befriends the guy, it turns out he is a girl. Cat, look out. It's another reverse trap. Your camp cough. So anyways, let's move on. I don't watch the show for now.
I just want to say, okay, step 1, draw a character that looks exactly like Hirotaka. Step 2, call that character a girl. Step 3, profit? Question mark? What is the point of this character? Anyway, like, I don't know.
To get into lots of gender bending, like, sexy poses with.
Yeah.
That is the point. All right.
So moving on to the next scene, because I don't watch the show for now, but damn it, son of a bitch, it's still about now. Anyways, they log into that one game from before to help Now level up, so his new friend Ko doesn't always have to help him, but shit goes south and Ko shows up and nukes everything and disappears real quick, and like he goes on and thanks her and whatnot. But the next day, I guess, like, Hirotaka broke his glasses and can't see shit without them. It basically causes him to get, like, really close to female coworkers when he's, like, trying to look at the paper document he has, and, like, all the women are like, wow, he looks really sexy without the glasses. Actually, they're like, his eyes, they look kind of, like, you know, mean or something, and the other girl's like, oh, I like that. And, like, Momose just gets, like, really jealous about it, and it's super cute. But then we go back to Nao, who goes to his brother's place to play the game with Ko. The thing with Ko is that she doesn't get frustrated with Nao when he doesn't improve at all, which is just, you know, a big difference where his brother, you know, would just like be like, oh my god, get better already, you're driving me insane. But at one point, like, Nao gets a phone call, and while he's away, Hirotaka plays as his character and beats like a bunch of wolves in a high level area that like Ko's in, and she's like, whoa, that was crazy. And like his in-game character is like acting totally different and like you know, like more suave and like, you know, in control and stuff like that. She's like, what? But now it comes back and apologizes for his brother and says he will leave the high level area, but Ko's like starts falling for him and he just asks him to stay anyways. But then there's like some weird like after credit scene where like, and they failed and they gave up.
I was like a little confused by that ending at first, because I was like, Ko kind of only becomes really attracted to Nao's like character, his avatar, after like Hirotaka plays with him. So I was like, at first I was like, is Ko attracted to Hirotaka's like gaming skills? But then I was like, no, I think it's the way that Hirotaka's avatar looked at her avatar. Like he like was completely disinterested and like weird. And like, then when Now came back, she was so happy that like her friend was back. And so I do think it's like, oh no, she's falling for her Now. In the end of the day, but it was a little confusing there for a second.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say, my brain kind of shut off when I saw the MMO characters again.
I know.
I was like,
really?
I don't like the MMO parts. I'm like, can we not?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I don't have a like or dislike about that. I'm surprised it bothers you guys so much.
Well, the first time I didn't mind the second part because it had like a point, but like the first time they did it in this episode, I was like, oh, it's kind of like the same scene that we had before where like Hirotaka like saves the day kind of thing, except it's like Ko saving the day. So I was like, what's the point of this season? I don't know what the point of that scene was. I was like, this is okay.
That Ko's a female gamer and she's really good.
She's really good. And she looks exactly like Hirotaka. Like, exactly. And it is Fujoshi bait, Leo. It's just not...
Well,
it's like
okay, it's the
Fujoshi
like,
will ship them outside of the show.
It's like the Brocon Fujoshi bait. Like, it's like... Maybe some people want to see the brothers together, but like that would be gross. So they just make a character looking exactly like the brother.
Oh. I didn't even make that connection. You're just ruining this shit out of
You
this for me.
didn't make that connection? Oh man,
not really.
You're a novice.
I
in
bet
the
you
ways
that
of
Hanako and
yaoi.
Narumi will make it
my
canon
brain
too.
started to figure it out, and it was just like, stop! Don't
think about it
anymore.
Well, Narumi and Hanako are such yaoi like fangirls. They'll probably make it canon once they realize.
I mean,
they'll probably make it canon in the next couple episodes.
Yeah,
Or
I mean,
actually, there's only one more episode. That's kind of crazy to think. There's only one more episode of this anime.
Yeah,
man,
makes me.
There's no way
worried.
to tie this up in a satisfactory way.
I know.
They could just do a last episode, and it's only Hanako and what's his name is Taro. And I would be happy with that because they actually have a fucking relationship.
Yeah,
this is not what I was expecting from this anime. I am disappointed.
Yeah,
I'm a bit disappointed. I kind of did expect this at the beginning because I was like, coming off a recovery of an MMO junkie, where it's like
this
things
is
did
that
not
block.
progress.
Okay, what's that block called? It's on the tip of my tongue.
Noi Tamina.
Yeah, this is a
block.
Noi fucking Tamina anime. I was expecting better things. Noi Tamina should be ashamed.
I do think it did some unique things along the way. Like, it was pretty relatable anime, more so than a lot of like rom-coms these days.
Well, I'm not saying
So
it's terrible.
It did some things well.
It's not like I
No.
hated it. I enjoyed a lot of it. It's just like I was expecting something more because it was a Noi Tamina anime. And they didn't, they haven't given it to me. And so I'm disappointed in that aspect of it.
Right.
It's still better than MMO Junkie. So,
Yeah, I would say so too, in my opinion. Yeah.
Oof. I'm ready to laugh though. If you guys are,
I am too. Okay. Starting on Fridays, it's Hinamatsuri. Let's laugh at how much of a lolicon anime this has become.
no.
you are so fucking sensitive. Like,
I'm mostly joking.
God damn it.
are you though? I think you got triggered again.
But like at the beginning, I was like, that's a lot of naked shots.
Okay. This isn't a spoiler, but this plays into later on how Hitomi just stays in her childlike body, so it's genetic, and it's an ongoing joke later on in the manga. So it has purposes.
It has many purposes, Leo. One of which is to have lots of lollies in the show.
Just give us episode 9 already.
So Ikaruga decides to call in a new girl named Mao in order to deliver the ball that Hina needs to return home. Unfortunately, she lands way off course. She's like buck naked on a deserted island in the middle of the South China Sea.
And she immediately she also immediately loses both balls. Like immediately.
Oh, does she? I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, they get chucked in the sea immediately.
Yeah, she comes out like the teleportation or the time travel or whatever it is, and both the balls just immediately roll into the sea.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's bad. It's really bad.
So, like, despite being on the island for, like, 10 days, she's, like, still just, like, naked and hasn't even tried to start figuring things out yet. She's just sitting on the beach. And, like, okay, whatever. They pan about around her naked body. I don't care. It's whatever. And it turns out the makers of Hisone to Masotan weren't the only people who saw Castaway. It's like, Mao is, like, really lonely on the island. And so she makes a couple of coconuts, basically in the image of, Hina and Anzu, and just like has them float around with her everywhere.
And I would have given shit for this, except for she's doing her own impersonations of Anzu and Hina, and it's fucking hysterical.
It is pretty hysterical. It's also pretty on point, and Hina just always constantly says, "Feed me."
I know.
Feed me.
No, she literally says food. She's like, Gohan, Gohan. She's just saying food.
And it's funny because, like, actually, like, Mao is, like, pretty self-sufficient. Like, she's able to, like, use her telekinetic powers to, like, like pick fish up out of the ocean, like, put them on, like, sticks and then, like, fry them up. So she's, like, able to feed herself. But she's on this island. Like, I counted, like, they keep showing, like, the, like, hash marks on trees or whatever. Like, she's been on the island for, like, 198 days before... And at this point, she's like given the coconuts like full straw bodies and like has them like walking around with her. But then she kind of snaps out of it because she's like, "You're not actually Anzu or Hina, you're just coconuts." And she goes to like the top of a cliff and like throws them into the sea. And so, yeah, that after 198 days, she does this, and she finally, like, builds a raft and sails herself to what she thinks is Japan, except the map shows, like, she's actually sailing it from, like, the South China Sea into, like, the Gulf of Thailand, like, nowhere near Japan. So, anyway, the episode moves on after this, and Nita is meeting an old Yakuza brother named Naito, who's just...
I'm so hyped.
He's getting out of prison.
I'm so hyped. Okay. Okay.
So it turns out their organization is in a bit of a crisis because the president, like the leader, fell into a coma. And this was because Hina told him he smelled weird. And he went into a coma because of it. But he hasn't named an heir for like the organization, so they're like all in disarray. And one of the lieutenants asks Nita if like he'll back him, and Nita agrees, and he tells like Naito like, yeah, we should back this guy. And Naito's like, I don't know, I just got out of prison, like why would I support some guy who will just like take, you know, keep me from like getting promoted? But Nita's like able to change his mind. He like grovels and begs him like, please don't like make it so like when the boss wakes up we have a splintered organization, and like he blames it all on me. And Naito's like, all right, you know what? You're a pretty good guy.
There's also one point where he picks up the ashtray and like...
Well, he like... because earlier, he like Nita's talking about how the scar on his face is from this dude, like, whacking him with the ashtray when they were both young.
Yes.
It's awesome.
He's so afraid of this ashtray. So yeah, like expected, the president like wakes up from the coma, and Nita goes to visit him in the hospital to like confirm like who is the successor going to be. Unfortunately, he also brought Hina with him. And Hina tells the president, like when she hears about all of this like hubbub, she's like, I want Nita to be the successor. And like quickly, like the president's like, you know, I agree with you.
He's like, anything for you.
And like Nita's like, I just spent like weeks trying to convince everybody, or like days, I don't know, whatever, trying to convince everybody that like we should support the lieutenant. And like before he says this though, like Sabu is one of the like Yakuza guys. He's in the room and he texted out to like I think Naito that like the boss just confirmed Nita as the successor. But like the boss like immediately agrees with Nita. Is like, okay, we should support the lieutenant. I was just like getting ahead of myself. I just wanted to thank you, but like the damage has been done. So like yeah, Naito and the lieutenant now think that Nita has tried to like steal the promotion out from under them, and so he wakes up and he's just in a barrel that has been filled with concrete, and they're about to throw him into the ocean to sink him to the bottom.
This is what you've been waiting for, right, Kat?
Oh, yes! I love
Yakuza
this
shit.
scene so much. Oh, my God. No, okay, especially the part, okay, like, when the president shows up and clears it up, like, no, like, he's the one who turned me around on it. Like,
that is the best
he was
part.
for you. His face... And like they're all trying to reassure Nita, and they're like, "Oh, we love you so much. We're gonna promote you." And he just has the best fucking look on his face.
Yeah, no, I love that whole scene. It was
This
pretty
show
hilarious.
nails it with the facial expressions.
Well, and they all are like
they
slow
say so much.
clapping, like for him for getting
They're like
promoted.
chanting, like. Because he's like, you know what I'll do? I'll make you the next lieutenant, Nita. You'll be happy about that. Nita just has like blank face. He's so pissed off. Oh man. But because of this, Hina is like, Hina gets the idea from Hitomi, I think, at the bar, like to throw Nita like a party for his promotion. And like Hina's like, yeah, like he'll be happy and you'll probably get something out of it too. So she's like, oh, this is a great idea. But she has no idea how to throw a celebration. So she just goes around to like a bunch of different people asking like how they would celebrate. And it just makes her like more confused. The only person who she doesn't ask is Anzu. She doesn't even want to know what Anzu would do. So that was funny.
She takes offense to it. It's pretty funny.
Yeah. So like she's so confused. She's like, I'll just take everyone's advice. And so she decides to do like everything that everyone told her all at the same time and make a huge party. But like she doesn't have enough money for everything she would need for that. So like she takes some like shortcuts. Like there's some empty liquor bottles underneath the sink that they're going to like throw away. She fills them with water to pretend that they're like liquor, like sake bottles. And she like makes a cake out of just like a bag of flour and just shapes it into a cake. And then like when Nita gets home, she's like bought flowers and like she made like a portrait photo of him. She has set it all up as if it's like a shrine to his death. So he just gets home, he opens the door, he's like, I'm home, and he's like, I'm dead. And then like she's in like a big cardboard box and she just like slowly emerges from it with her hands held up and she says like, boo. And then she's like, congratulations on your promotion. And he just stares at her for a second. He's like, thanks. It was perfect. It was just so funny.
It was a very good episode.
Very good.
That episode
Kat,
sealed.
yeah.
I like this anime again now. For a while, I was getting tired of it. This one.
The Yakuza stuff comes and goes, Kat. You just... And I think the in-between's just as good, but the Yakuza stuff is definitely very hilarious.
Well, the next episode is hilarious, too. So, like, it's picking back up. It's good. It's all good.
Okay, all right. So, we guys ready for episode 10?
Mm-hmm.
I am ready for the Loli Mom.
Okay.
Oh,
like
she
a
really
river.
is. Okay.
Oh, it's... So, Hitomi gets found out by her lolly mom that she has been doing things late at night. She demands Hitomi tell her what she's been doing. Hitomi just comes clean, so she won't have to work for Otaku anymore, thinking like her mom would be like, oh, you can't be a bartender anymore. But like her mom doesn't believe her and thinks she's doing depraved things instead, like selling her body. It's just like, what the fuck? The whole exchange is just just hilarious. It's great. So Hitomi ends up telling what happened to Nita and Otaku. She also doesn't want to go back home. So Otaku selfishly tells her to just move out and get her own place so that she can keep her job there. Because she's like, I can't go back to living on what I had before or something like that. Yeah, her old revenue.
Well, and then at that point,
Hitomi.
Nito is like, why do I love her again?
Yeah, he's like, what the fuck? Yeah, he's like, what the fuck, Otaku? That's kind of messed up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, being part of the Yakuza, Nita kind of runs like a, what is it? What's that called?
Like
for
a
apartments
rental,
and stuff like
a
that.
rental agency, kind of.
Yeah, something like that. So she ends up finding her apartment already furnished in a monthly rent of 150,000 yen, which translates to 1,356 when converted.
It's pretty damn good for that apartment.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah, for that
really.
apartment, it's like on a fucking high rise, already furnished. I mean, Jesus. But then later on, she goes back to her night job, and while talking to her customers, they start to suggest they come and work for them. And she goes through like a bunch of various jobs. She's like a window cleaner at one point. She does random things. And at one point, she becomes like an office lady, and like some of the other office ladies are talking shit about her in the bathroom, which shows you that high school is no different than moving into the
things
job
just get
market.
more subtle. Things never change.
And they were like, "Oh, she probably appeals to those lolicon guys to get ahead because she's so young looking." I was like, "Oh my god!"
right. The show knows what it's doing. Yeah, and it's just like, and like it makes me think of like, oh my god, the rumor mill at work is just it's probably worse than what it was in high school. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but anyways, as an office lady, like I said, some of the office ladies talk shit about her in the bathroom, but she eventually earns the respect of one of the bullies through her hard work at the office and just like being kind to her. But she's just working all these jobs. She's working like 24/7. It's insane. And it's making her tired at school and work. And one night she just like barely makes it into her apartment and just passes out in like the foyer there, right up front. Otaku, of her own accord, decides that they're going to have a housewarming party at Hitomi's place. Hitomi basically being held up with all this shit. At this point, she's like, I'm going to invite my mother. She's going to see this mess of a situation I'm in, and she's going to, release me from this vicious cycle. And it's just, I'll be free again. So, like, her mom shows up, and, like, all the businessmen are like, oh, you're Hitomi's mother? Oh, hi. And, like, giving them all their cards and stuff. But, like, in the end, she's impressed, and she's like, tells her, she's like, not everybody makes such, relationships with such high up people. She's like, this is great, but in the end, she's like, I'm so a little scared that my own daughter has this master plan to get high connections to businesses like this. And like Hitomi is like speechless because now she's just totally stuck in this.
Yeah,
she's like, you can't throw this away.
Worse and worse for Hitomi.
You have to keep at it now.
Like, yeah, she's like, great, now my mother approves of this. Fuck me. So,
I think her last line is like, what was I even trying to accomplish when I started out with all this? Oh, man.
So the second half, Anzu gets her allowance. It's a whopping, like 5,000 yen.
It's like $50.
Which is actually a pretty good allowance for a middle schooler. Mm-hmm. I mean, I only got $20 a week. I don't know what you guys got.
I would not have been entrusted with that much money at that age, for
$50?
sure.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, I know, because I had to save up 4 weeks just to get a video game, and that's when they were $50. Mm-hmm. She ends up meeting up with Hitomi to use the money and go out and have something fun, but they try bowling, karaoke, and other various forms of entertainment, and she just comes up with like pretty excusable, like reasons like, these are just stupid. Why are we doing this? Like the bowling one, she's like, oh, I could just put sticks up in the park and knock them down, or like karaoke. She's like, I could just sing in the shower or something like that.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to it, eventually she wants to buy some shoulder massage things for the older couple that are looking after her because she wants to, help take care of them and repay them for their kindness and whatnot. So because Anzu is just like so pure of heart at this point. But she doesn't have enough money. But it turns out Sabu's nearby and overhears and says he has a way for her to make some money. And to the horse tracks they go, where Hitomi's like, you shouldn't be teaching her gambling, but whatever.
Well, he told me, it's like, when have I ever met a decent adult who knows what they're talking about?
She's like, wait a minute. And she just thinks, and like the faces that come on screen of like Otaku and Nita are just like, like the tongue stick out. Like, you're just evil as fuck. She's like, oh my God. Anzu wins her first bet at a 90-1 odds and ends up like 45,000. That can't be right.
She wins like $500. She basically
won. Yeah, like $500. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But then she starts getting greedy and thinks she wins more. She can then buy them even more gifts. Well, it turns out she loses it all in the end and ends up making like little cards for them that say 10-minute shoulder massage. And like the last episode's her like, this is the other show with the massage, giving like the old guy a massage. And she's like, tells the older lady like, oh, you want a massage? She's like, I don't want to use them all up at once. So that's just a really cute ending to Anzu's right there. That's about the end of the episode.
I was laughing at one point at the end of the horse racing sequence. She's like, there's a subtitle that Crunchyroll just like massively fucked up, where they have Anzu saying,
I noticed it too. I was like, what the fuck?
The gods of hose racing must have seen through me. And it's like, good job, Crunchyroll. You really tried.
Did you? Yeah, you're like, you not have time to fucking check this shit?
I'll say I was like a little bit bored with the Hitomi section, only because like we've seen like the Hitomi is too young to be working joke a couple times before, but it wasn't like bad or anything. It's just like, okay, I've kind of seen this before in this show.
I would feel like they evolved with it.
Yeah,
they did. And I love the part
Yeah.
where she's like in class and like all of her classmates are talking about all the stuff they do on a regular basis, and she's just like, must be nice to be free.
Must be nice.
There's also another part where she's at school where she's falling asleep, and the students are like, I've never seen her sleep in class before.
What was so funny about that is in the same frame you see fucking Hina just like
sleeping
and drooling, because like that's the norm for her. That was really good framing. I really liked that.
Yeah,
The show is really good at like layering its jokes in a way that it makes them even better. I
mean, I would honestly be surprised if this does not get another season, because there's definitely plenty of material, and this is one of my favorite manga to read. I mean, does nothing but get funnier.
If they give me more of the Yakuza shit, I am in. I will watch 1 billion seasons of it.
I'm going to tell you again, Kat, it comes and goes, but it is there. I mean, even in the first part of this episode, like where like Nita uses his Yakuza connections to get her an apartment. I mean, that's still part of it. Mm-hmm. But the being in a cement drum barrel is probably really good.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. I was just like, yes.
Oh man. So, darlings, let's talk about another show.
Ooh.
Yeah, another show we need another season of.
That probably was one of the best transitions you've ever done in your life, Leo. I want to take a moment to recognize Leo.
Maybe somebody will write us a review about my transitions.
There you go. There you go. Viewers, you heard it here. Write Leo a review about his sexy transitions.
There you go.
Oh, God.
Say something positive about me rather than he's the high guy on the podcast. And I'm like, what?
So by the way, this week I decided that we would review like the special episode and then episode 20, because I thought about like jumping ahead and doing like 20 and 21, but then we still would have had 3 episodes less, so we would have had to do an extra podcast later anyway.
That's true.
We did jump ahead and do an extra episode with Legend of Galactic Heroes, but that's because it only has 12 episodes, so it actually made sense for that show. But yeah, so we'll be talking about the special episode here, the second special episode.
Well, you and Kat will be.
Well,
I didn't see it.
That like extra podcast should be small though. Like it'll be tiny.
It will be. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be all right. Okay. So this is the second special episode, and I did not enjoy it as much as the first special episode. I don't know. It
had some interesting parts, though.
Yeah, it was mostly just standard recap stuff. Like, there were a few interesting parts, but most of it was just like, we didn't really need this. I did think it was interesting to see that the director of Darling in the Franxx was the animation director for Gurren Lagann. I had no idea. And, like, I can kind of see the similarities now that I know that, you know?
Yeah, and he also directed The Idolmaster, which I guess I had known at some point, but I forgot until I was watching this episode, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. So he's like a real heavy animation guy, basically.
Yeah.
And
and
that's his forte.
Well, and I can totally see that, like, and especially in the first few episodes, some of those scenes are so animation heavy. It makes total sense.
Yeah.
Also, I guess the director almost decided not to do the project. And they were asking him, like, what made you finally decide, like, all right, let's put our chips on the table. We're doing this. And the director said that the reason he finally decided to go for it is because he was able to get such a great staff together. And I think that makes sense because a lot of the people he got together for this anime are from Gainax, and he's originally from Gainax. So I guess for him, it's kind of like getting his old crew back together.
Yeah, basically.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, he's the one who came up with this, and they hired a special writer to help him with his ideas, but like he is the one who came up with the idea. So it's interesting. I don't know. Also, okay, they did like these little specials with the voice actors for Hero and 02, which we've already seen them before, but like you see them again. And like, I don't know, the voice actor who plays Hero, like it seems like he is much newer than the actor that plays 02, and it also seems like he has a weird like senpai crush on the actor that plays 02, because whenever he's talking about her, he just is like gushing about how wonderful she is and how helpful and blah 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 blah, and I'm like, oh, you got something there for her. Like, come on, you do. I also thought it was interesting like how they highlighted the voice actors for Hero and 02. Like, they really made an effort to make them look hot as fuck in these interviews. Did you guys notice this? Like the lighting.
I noticed like the interesting like one shoulder like shirt that like Haruka Tomatsu, 02's voice actress, was wearing, like, which was like I don't know, I was just like transfixed by her shirt, because it's like a collared shirt, right? But like one side is designed so it has like just a strap so that the rest of the collar can fall off of her shoulder and leave her shoulder like exposed.
Bare. Yep.
And I was like, oh, that's kind of hot.
Yeah. And I mean, the guy, they have like him on a nice sweater, and also they have lighting, and like they really got like professional makeup artists and like really messed with their, like, they beat their faces because like if you look, they have some close-ups of their faces and they look like glass, like polished glass. Their complexions are so flawless, and I'm like, there is no way that is natural. I don't know what the fuck they did to those voice actors. They made some efforts, all right. Okay, so, and then also 02's voice actor has this moment where she says that she finds that if you use preconceived notions of a character while doing voice acting for a character, they always end up being cliche, and it's probably pretty accurate. And I did notice that 02 could very easily be a cliche character, and she doesn't seem that way to me. So
yeah, I agree. I think she's come off pretty well, and that probably is in a huge part thanks to like the good voice acting. So
yeah. And then the final thing I noted is at the end, like they asked the director, like, what do you like? I think they asked him like what you're really thinking right now, most of all. And like he says some bullshit, but like the look on his face, he really just wants to say like, please God, I want it to be over soon. Like that's really what he wants to say.
He's so tired.
You could just see it in his face. Like,
so yeah, I was super interested in like those two parts. Like for the first part was like the series composition guy who has co-written the series with the director, talking about like what his ideas were for like the series and what he wanted to say. And he actually specifically talked about the scene where Ikuno confesses her feelings to Ichigo as one where he like wanted to get across that even if you don't understand someone, you can still try to understand them and walk like side by side with them and like lean on them. And like the rest of what he said was just like a bunch of wishy-washy bullshit. And he like kind of just like completely ignored like the main narrative that the series has been pushing for a while now. And like, but it's clear that they know that there's criticism, because like he says something like, we probably haven't communicated perfectly with this production. And I was like, yeah, that's an understatement.
Well, that's a very Japanese way of saying it, in a way.
Yes. And then, the director addressed criticism of the show also, like, I felt in the end, by saying that, like, in the end, I had to go with, like, what I personally believe in, and, like, that'll be reflected in the show, like, right or wrong. But he's like, if I didn't do that, then I knew the show would feel fake to me. So he believes that like in the final episodes, like he's going to stick by what he believes in. And like, to be fair, I kind of respect this to an extent, because like, if nothing else, Darling in the Franxx has like served as like a good talking piece, like for a lot of reasons, for like maybe how backwards and shitty some people's views on gender and sex are. But it's been valuable regardless, because it's been just interesting to talk about. I just wish the show was like smarter overall in general about the way it went about that stuff. But yeah, I'm very curious to see how this show ends now, given everything that's been said about it. So yeah.
Yep.
So Leo, bring us to a new world.
Oh yeah.
Oh, are you sure?
Yeah, we want to go.
We want that new world.
Okay. Why do you keep sticking me with the info dumps? Bcom.
To
Well, they're all
torture
info
you.
dumps now.
To torture you.
God. So episode 20 in New World. Nana has been replaced by code 007, and the plan is to fire up the Klaxosaur weapon Star Entity that they secured in the last episode. Kokoro also starts getting like sickness because she is most likely prego. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
morning
obvious that what
sickness.
this is for. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't even know if it's morning. She's just getting sickness, which is still a side effect. They literally call it D-Day has arrived, and Papa gives a speech to all the child soldiers, and the Nines are a little peeved that they aren't getting the spotlight. Basically, that's kind of how I took it. Like they don't like that the other squad is like outshining them or whatever.
Right.
But then 02 like defends them, and it shows how the group has completely accepted 02 now, and they're all comrades and blah, 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 whatever. That's when they are suddenly attacked and go out into the field to battle the Klaxosaurs. But 02 and what's his stupid name? Mitsuru go off, and they have to do their own thing.
Oh, 02 and Hero. Sorry. Go off.
Sorry,
to do
yeah,
their own
thank
thing.
you.
Yeah.
Hero, yeah. During it, Mitsuru says Kokoro's name and causes them both to suddenly have like mind-splitting headaches, a lot like what Nana was having when her emotions started coming back. So back to 02 and Hero, who go into the underground to get to the Star Entity. When suddenly like that giant snake Klaxosaur that we saw with the princess comes flying in and like crashes through the walls, and it stops in front of Dr. FranXX, and like inside its mouth is the Klaxosaur princess just sitting there. She's warning them not to touch their child. I'm not sure what she means by their, like hers and like the
I wondered
human
about
child?
that too. I was like, what do you mean there? Yeah.
It's kind of like, I think it's like a crossbreed between Dr. FranXX and her. Like they sort of created it together.
I don't think it's
The Star Entity.
It would be kind of fucked
Strelixia.
up if it was hers and Dr. FranXX like that.
Not
Wait, are
like
they
a
talking
child.
about the Strelixia there, or the
No, I
the
think
Star
it's-
Entity?
Yeah.
Star Entity.
Oh, okay.
But like Dr. FranXX, even towards the end of the episode, it's like he created this, but he used the Klaxosaurs. I mean, that's how he created the mechs and whatnot. This is when Dr. FranXX calls her code 001.
Fucking called it. And you doubted me.
Oh, I don't remember it. But
So like I had said like, oh, she's gonna be called code 001. You're like, well, she has a name. It's the Princess Klaxosaur. And I'm like, nah, she's gonna be called
actually-
001.
I kind of thought
so
for
does that mean Dr. FranXX created her? Because that doesn't make any sense.
no.
I don't know.
I think he based 02 on her. Also,
Yeah, obviously. No, yeah, he used DNA he got from her to
Yeah.
make
and
02.
I think he just classified this being as 001.
Okay, that makes sense. But anyways, he says that she can't operate the Star Entity herself because she lacks a partner, because she is the last of the Klaxo Sapiens. Oh God.
Sorry.
But she ends up like attacking the Doctor, and claims she needs no partner, but she will try the one he has provided, talking about Hero.
Well, and it's
Princess catches
weird
up-
because he's like, you need a partner and I'm available. And I'm just like, dude, like you're old as fuck. Like, I don't know what you're trying to do. Like,
Hey, Kat, one other anime already took all the boners, so they can't legally put more boners in another show. They've all been bought up by another.
it's been maxed
We know
out.
that he has the hots for her. He
It's
has ever since
such
he's
a
met
fucking
her. So,
weird
like,
scene though, because it's like, I don't know.
Well, look, she ripped off his fucking arm, and he still had a boner for her.
I mean,
Yeah.
Give me
yeah.
a break.
Yeah.
So the princess catches up to Hero in 02 and just flat out incapacitate their mech immediately. The doors open to her command, and she like just throws 02 out and calling her like a fake clone the humans made. She basically then just starts Frenching the shit out of Hero.
yeah.
And in Hero's face, because he's just sort of sitting there and like looking at her.
Well, he's tangled in her tentacles, basically.
Well,
He
and
can't
he's just
move.
kind of like,
She can't-
and she's like sucking at his face. It's not even really like a French kiss. It's more like she's just sucking
it's
at
kinda
his
weird.
face.
Yeah. And he doesn't even
good.
like try to like bite her or something. Like he just goes with it. He's like, this is
Anyways,
awkward.
when she's Frenching him, the mech starts transforming, which is kind of cool, into actually the same colors at the door they couldn't get through right in front of them. She then just proceeds to operate the mech and open the door all on her own. Oh boy, info dumps. So it turns out at one point the Klaxo Sapiens evolved into two different groups. One turned into energy and return to the earth, also known as magma. The other consumed this energy and turned into Klaxosaurs, but then like lost their like cognitive thinking at the same time. But this also turned them into biological weapons. By using female and male components, they allowed the Klaxosaurs to be made. Basically saying the mechs are pretty much Klaxosaurs themselves, and they have been using them to fight Klaxosaurs with Klaxosaurs. Also, that means the Klaxosaurs at one point had pilots of their own at one time.
Yeah,
is the line that said it was such an information dump. I was like, what?
Yeah, it was like the female was the body and like the male soul was the pilot. Yeah, it's basically what Dr. Franks based like the entire project off of, is like that setup from the Klaxosaurs.
Yeah. So as the princess activates the star instinct, Ape decides they're just going to take out the whole planet instead, and then shit just goes crazy. Giant Klaxosaur guns and missiles start rising from the ground and firing at the Ape fleet in space, and they start firing back, and even all the Franks pilots are like, what the fuck is going on? This is way more intense than anything they've ever been. The princess explains that a long time ago they were attacked by invaders from space who they fought and drove off. They then holed up in the earth and prepare for their return. She calls them Verm. Another acronym.
I know. Okay, look. This is Verm is just nerve backwards, except with like an M instead of an N. It's such an Evangelion homage, like, if not ripoff. It's just like ridiculous to me at this point.
Yeah, so it's the second time this week we get this. We get massages. We get all this crazy shit. But anyways, she then fires a giant beam from the Star Entity that like wrecks a huge amount of that space fleet that was just sitting outside. And then suddenly something happens to the princess and she loses control of the Star Entity. Verm explains that if she ever gained control of it, they had rigged it to explode it and the entire planet. Verm then starts to like absorb the life force of the princess and hero, and also this weird thing happens, like two of the ape leaders like collapse from their chairs and they form into like some energy entity being. I don't know what the fuck was going on.
Well, like I said, they were the aliens on the council all along, who not humans. Like, so the council was divided between like these ape aliens who were like the head of like the alien.
Oh, I assumed
invasion.
They were all aliens.
I thought that too.
Because like they had been having arguments back and forth, so I knew like some of them were not aware of like everything going on. And so, like, yeah, there were like a bunch of like shadow council members.
Okay, I think you're onto something, but I don't think that has been completely confirmed yet.
They needed to explain some of this shit better. Like, some of this shit is so vague and mushed together like mashed potatoes. It's like a mashed potato plot. Like, you can't, it's all mushy. You can't understand. I don't know.
Also, forget the first 19 episodes of this show because it was all aliens all along. It's just fucking hilarious to me.
I am having a hard time thinking of how to rank this show.
We need that.
It's very dependent still for me on like the last couple episodes, because like even though it is like, okay, we have this crazy alien invasion now, it's like, how are they going to tie the themes of the show up to this point to what they have now introduced as this like outside alien element who is trying to destroy like the whole planet?
Also, apparently the Klaxosaurs are the original inhabitants of the planet. When the fuck did the humans become involved in all this?
I know. Like, when did they show up?
What?
Were the Klaxosaurs
So, I guess-
what are these fucking things? I don't know. Like,
They basically say like the Klaxosaurs went back underground after they fought off the first invasion. They like were forced back underground, and then I guess that gave the opportunity for humanity to rise up and like evolve from something. And then like humanity eventually rediscovered the Klaxosaurs, and like Ape came back to Earth as like a predecessor of the Verm invasion that was on its way again.
So, but you're talking a billion years here.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, how deep underground were they for us not to discover them is, like, insane. I don't know.
Yeah. And how has 001 survived? Has she been alive the whole time?
See,
or
this
is she
is
like
what
a
I
descendant?
mean. It's vague. Yeah. We don't know. It doesn't matter, apparently.
One thing I do like is the way that 001 pilots the stupid FranXX. She just like sits in midair as her tentacles support her as they reach into like the spots where the girl's arms and legs would normally reach into. Right. And I was just like, okay, that's kind of cool.
That is kind of cool. Yeah.
It's not surprising.
Yeah, makes sense. I don't know. This show is batshit. It's trying to like take it to like the like 11th level right now, and it's just like, man, I don't know what you're doing.
I do find it entertaining, but I think it's more I'm just intrigued by all these questions I have. Maybe. Mm-hmm.
Well,
I think the action is pretty well done.
It just reminds me that once again, when you have a show that you want it to be super intense and super crazy, but you haven't thought it through enough, it's not going to turn out well. Like if you want the intensity, you're going to have to do some major thinking and like give us some actual logic. I don't know.
And what do we have? How many episodes do we have left? 3?
4 more.
4.
21,
4
22,
more?
23, and 24. Yeah.
Holy shit. When's 24 air?
So at the time of this recording, 22 is actually already aired. So it would be like 2 Saturdays from now, basically.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like July, whatever that is. Hold on. I can look it up.
When does summer start? Because I feel like we're cramming here.
Yeah, so, I mean, this season will bleed over a bit into the beginning of next season.
I think we will be almost on track. Like, we won't really
we'll be on track because we have to wait for a couple episodes of next season to come out anyway before we do our podcasts. Yeah. So it's not that bad. Mm-hmm. But it is... Because they had so many delayed weeks, this is why it hasn't ended yet. They had 2 specials that delayed. So
yeah, that happens.
That is crazy. Yeah. Anybody got anything else?
No, I think that's about it for me.
Yeah.
Cool. Me too. Kat, take us out.
All right. Thanks for listening. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe to us on YouTube to get updates on all the new podcasts or videos. Follow us on Twitter at Nerdom and Other for updates as well. All right. I'll see you guys later. Bye.
See you around. Peace.
Later.